It's 6:30, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Before we do anything, can we have another round of applause for our incredible performers? Thank you, Mr. Bertelson and Sunrise. In a moment, our Sunrise Middle School students will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will follow the pledge with a moment of silence to honor two individuals from our PV Schools community who have recently passed. Carol Morgan, the library media technician at Palomino Primary School, was a steady, caring, and beloved presence in the lives of our students, staff, and families for 35 years. Additionally, Dr. Kathy Webke became the first national board-certified teacher in Arizona while here in PV Schools, where she also served as principal of Desert Trails Elementary School. Her career in education spanned more than 40 years, including a recent appointment to the State Board of Education. We are forever grateful to them for their dedication to students and education, and send our deepest condolences to their families and all who knew these remarkable women. Would you please rise and join us in the pledge, and then stay for a moment of silence. Stay standing. Thank you very much. Would the parents of these fine performers please stand or remain standing so we can give you a round of applause and thank you for sharing your students with us. Thank you all very much. Next on the agenda, may I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Christensen,
Here.
Mr. Pantera,
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Here.
Dr. Lim,
Here.
Ms. Wani.
Here.
Next on the agenda, the next 6 items are related to the board organizational portion of tonight's meeting, and next on the agenda is nomination and election of board president. Does anyone have a nomination for board president 2026? Mrs. Christensen.
Yes. Dear President Greenberg and fellow board members, I respectfully nominate Jessica Wani for board president. May I read a prepared statement?
Ms. Wani, do you accept the nomination?
While I am honored, unfortunately, I think I have to respectfully decline, as I know that this position takes a tremendous amount of dedication and commitment, and I worry I would not be able to bring all of myself into that role at this time. But thank you. I appreciate the nomination.
Thank you, Ms. Wani. Thank you, Ms. Christensen. Does anyone else have a nomination for board president? Dr. Lim?
I move to nominate Tony Pantera for board president.
Thank you, Mr. Pantera. Would you accept the role?
I do.
Okay. Does anyone else have a nomination for board president for 2026? All right. Actually, so Dr. Lim made the motion already I will just go through. May I have a motion to approve the nomination of Tony Pantera to serve as 2026 board president? Ms. Christensen?
So moved.
Is there any discussion or anybody want to make a comment? Mrs. Christensen?
Yeah, I would like to just have some discussion. Over the past year, we've had some tumultuous times, and one of the reasons I wanted to nominate Ms. Wani was her strong, steady leadership and asking discerning questions. championing all concerns of not only our wonderful educators, but concerns of students and parents as well. And her just governance here has reflected both careful judgment and genuine commitment. And I'm just hoping that Mr. Pantera will champion not only our wonderful teachers here, but also parent concerns. And we really would like to have some strong leadership, especially now that we've been going through a lot of tough times. And so I wish you the best, but I just wanted to mention one of the reasons why I nominated Miss Wani, because she has really championed not only, as I mentioned, educators, but parents and staff members, and has really embodied what it means to be a governing board member.
Thank you, Mrs. Christensen. Does anybody else have a comment, question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes with 4 yeses, 1 nay, and 0 abstentions. And I will turn the seat over to Mr. Pantera.
Excuse me a moment while I get my glasses out. Thank you, Mrs. Greenberg, for what you've done for the board for all these years, and I know you continue to do so. You know, you'll be on the board long after I'm gone, so I really thank you for your support and help and guidance and everything we do for this board and for everyone else here. And for the rest of you, I just want to let you know that I'm going to do what's good for students, and what's good for students is also good for parents and the rest of the taxpayers of this district. I want to do good all the time, as much as I can, by listening. I don't set the policy, we set policy. I'm here to make sure the policy we all agree on is what happens. And I think I've demonstrated that many times in the past at different Arizona School Board Association meetings and things of that nature. I'd also like to take a personal moment to thank my beautiful wife over here, Michelle, who came. She always supports me. And she finally said, well, I'll go to a board meeting this time, Tony, okay, to support you for this. And my lovely daughter, Heidi, who's there also. Thank you for your support and helping me and getting me through all the things when I feel frustrated with this job. I appreciate it. Okay. Having said that, I'll see where we are next here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the next 6 items are related to board organization portion of tonight's meeting. Next on the agenda is, no, I did that. We've got a pro temp, yeah, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, it is. Next on the agenda is nomination for president pro temp for 2026. Okay. Does anyone have a nomination for president pro temp for 2026? Ms. Greenberg?
I nominate Dr. Amanda Lim for President Pro Tem.
Do you accept that?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for president pro temp? Seeing none. Do we need a motion for that, right? Yeah, we need a motion. Could somebody a motion that we have an election for a pro temp?
So moved.
All right, thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations, Dr. Lim. Would you like to say something? Oh, no? Moving on? Okay. Next on the agenda is to establish order of roll call vote. Consistent with the board's practice, the order of voting is decided by lot during the organizational meeting in January of each year. Each board member drew a number prior to the start of tonight's meeting. Mrs. Miller will call on each of us to announce our numbers to determine the order of roll call vote for the 2026 calendar year.
Mrs. Christensen,
2.
Mr. Pantera,
4.
Mrs. Greenberg,
1.
Dr. Lim,
3.
and Ms. Swanee.
5.
Have those been duly recorded? Yeah, okay. Next on the agenda is approval of authorized signatures. May I have a motion to appoint all governing board members as authorized signatories for the 2026 calendar year?
So moved.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Next on the agenda is authorizing of signature stamps. May I have a motion to authorize the use of facsimile signature stamps of governing board members for the 2026 calendar year?
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Okay then, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Although I forgot to say aye. I say aye for all these. Next, yeah. It's right there in front of me. You think I could read it, right? Next on the agenda is approval of resolution number 596, authorization to ratify vouchers. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 596, authorization to ratify vouchers, which approves the signing of expense vouchers between board meetings and resolves to ratify the expenditures as reported at each regularly scheduled board meeting.
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Corson.
Thank you, President Pantera. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. I'd like to offer the agenda as posted.
And we have no blue cards that I'm aware of. Does any board member wish to move something off of the consent items and move it for later? Mrs. Christensen.
Yes, I do. Although what's in the electronic form and what on the paper form is different, what in electronic it was F7, and on the paper form it's F5. So I'll read it. Consideration and approval of elementary leadership professional travel request. So I believe it's F7 on the electronic version, but we'll have to double check.
Just to be sure.
Yep.
It's item 5 on the paper version. Consideration and approval of elementary leadership professional travel request, that one? Okay. So that's,
Yes.
so on my paper version, that ends up being G4. Correct? Any other items wish to be set aside for later discussion? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve these items of consent?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. All right. Next. Excuse me, trying to keep up. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Would anyone like to go first? Anyone? Bueller? Okay, Mrs. Wani, would you like to go first, please?
Yes. I'd like to also take a moment and just give my sincerest appreciation and gratitude to our former board president, former President Greenberg. Thank you so much for serving and leading and being a wonderful example to the board. Thank you. I cannot express enough words of appreciation, truly. Thank you. And thank you to President Pantera for stepping into these very big shoes, and we're looking forward to your leadership. And just welcome 2026. We're here. Hopefully everybody's had a good start to the school, the new year and this continuation of this school year, and had a good break, and you had some downtime with your families, and got to do some fun things. And staff, I hope you got some downtime as well. I got a lot of rest time with my family, which was really nice and different. I've mentioned before, I have a graduating senior out of Horizon, and so I'm just soaking up every single moment. We spent a lot of time on our college applications, which is kind of just wild. So it goes by fast, and it's kind of like a blink of an eye. And I've appreciated every stage of this journey through her educational experience here at PV. We've had some really fun field trips and outings that I'll let my colleagues speak to, but I'll give you a little preview. One of them's West Mech. And I also had an opportunity since the last governing board meeting to have the honor of being a spelling bee judge for the very first time at Explorer Middle School. So I have so much appreciation and gratitude for the invitation over there. I had a blast. It was also very stressful, but those kids were incredibly impressive, and I'm really glad nobody's asking me to spell anything these days. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here and for showing your participation and engagement in PV by being present at this meeting. I appreciate all of you.
Mrs. Christensen?
Thank you, President Pantera. I would like to welcome everybody here today, any students, educators, family members, and community members. I just want to say welcome and good evening. The students, parents, and educators in this community are just so amazing, and it's been my honor to serve on this board for the past few years. So as we begin 2026, I just wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude to the entire community for entrusting the five of us to be your governing board members and being your elected representatives. It's truly an honor to serve as an elected representative up here. And now as I begin my fourth year in this role, I find myself reflecting on both the challenges that we faced and the successes over the past 3 years. But through it all, I've seen firsthand the deep passion our community holds for our schools and the future of our children. And those who take the time to attend the meetings like all of you today, whether to speak, listen, or simply observe, you do so because you also care deeply about our district. That kind of civic engagement is the foundation of strong, thoughtful governance. Though we may not always agree, I believe that open dialogue and respectful debate make our collective decisions stronger. While the governing board does not oversee daily operations, we're entrusted with the very important responsibility of providing faithful oversight on behalf of the families we serve. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being here, whether in person or online, and for your continued involvement. Your voice really matters. When we come together with shared purpose and mutual respect, we can make the Paradise Valley community a better place for children and families. So thank you all.
Dr. Lim?
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot a little bit. I know we're still saying Happy New Year. We're almost there where we're going to stop saying it, but we are coming into the new year, though it's only halfway through the school year. It is a new year, and we've already had amazing accomplishments happen in our schools, and I just want to take a moment and recognize one of those. So Mr. Kevin Story over at Shadow Mountain just celebrated 30 years as an English teacher over there. He's now a lead teacher over there, but he was my English teacher about it would have been 21 years ago. It was a while ago. And I don't think as someone in high school realized how young he was. He was very young for his age, felt much older when you're in high school, but I remember the impact he had on me. I was a student with dyslexia. I had just transitioned into honors when I got to high school, and my first year with a different teacher was a little bit of a struggle. So when I got to his classroom, I didn't feel prepared, even though I'd spent 2 years in honors. He taught me the ability to read out loud, which is a dyslexic's biggest fear. But he also gave me the skills I needed to ace the written portion of the standardized test at the time, the AIMS test. And I was able to pass that and get a full ride to college. So it was thanks to teachers like that that have supported and given their time back to the community. That's why we're here, which segues me into the thanks I want to give to Anne. Former President Greenberg, you have spent a significant amount of time sitting up here while many of these teachers have been out there serving our communities and our students. You're not only serving our students and our teachers, but you're serving our community by being up here and being a guiding light. So thank you for being like many of our teachers, giving back, and unlike our teachers who are paid, you are not, for giving your time and giving so much to PV schools. It has really left an impact, and I know I have learned from your leadership, and I look forward to continuing to sit on this board next to you, just in a different role this time. So thank you for your service, and thank you to all those dedicated professionals in PV that are giving their entire career or their volunteer time to PV. It has an impact and leaves a lasting impression on students many, many years later.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Thank you. As everyone said, welcome to semester 2 and to 2026. And I hope the semester has started off well. The year has started off well. I thank you to all my colleagues for your very kind words. It's an honor to be here and to serve with you. Thank you, Mr. Pantera, for taking over the center square. I look forward to supporting you in this coming year. And I know there was a whole lot of fun things that happened since the last meeting. Unfortunately, I missed some of them or most of them. Was not able to attend the ASBA conference. I was getting reacquainted with my granddaughter, who was 10 months at the time, and wasn't able to make the Westmeck tour because I had a client meeting and a wonky ankle at the same time. So I hope Mr. Pantera will talk a little bit more about that. But again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being such vital members of this community, for letting us know, your thoughts and what is so vital about this district. Your ups, your thumbs up, thumbs down. And we do listen, and we will continue to listen. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Pantera.
Thank you. And thank you again for all you've done for all the years. I remember being out there as a teacher at these board meetings, and you were up here, and I'm down there, and now here we are together, right? Unity. And being in this position this transition is pretty, it's going to take some getting used to for me. I'm used to talking to people, but usually it's a class of students, and they just have to listen when I do whatever. But now this is a different ballpark. But this is the most organic and most pure form of democracy right here. Okay, that's one of the things I like about our state. Our school boards are nonpartisan. We don't get paid. We're just here to help the children. That's our job, to help them grow, to help them learn, and do it together because we love them, we love the community, we love where we are. Again, talking about when I used to be a teacher here at Eagle Ridge, I did this mini grant. I got a mini grant for a project that we were doing a book. And the project was to get the materials so the students can build and take care of their own push carts, because the storybook we were reading was the push cart wars. Anyone ever heard of the Pushcart Wars book? No? Well, it's a cool book. And they had to not only put their carts together, but decide what they're gonna sell, what product they're going to have. At recess, they would go out and they would, push their wares and that, and they learned about a lot of things. A lot of math was involved with making the carts go together. A lot of statistics, well, what sells, what doesn't sell, money, all those things. And the reason I bring it up now is because I thought, wow, West Mech was like Pushcart Wars way beyond it. They have all these facilities all over. One's right in our district, right over, well, close to our district, right by the airport, by Deer Valley Airport. We did the tour, and they have so many programs for these students, from welding, from working on cars, from beauticians. Help me out. What are some of the other things they did? All kinds of things, right? Yeah, trunk engineering, air
HVAC,
conditioning,
veterinarian. or
medical things.
medical.
And it's fantastic. One of the students I was talking to, though, at the welding section, he said, "Oh, you're from Perrys Valley?" I said, "Yes, we're from Perrys Valley." "Well, we have a lot of students that come from Perrys Valley." And he mentioned the CREST program. And it's such a beautiful thing when it goes together, and we can partner with this organization that helps kids pursue their passions, because that's what I'm all about, is helping, and we all are, I think, helping the students pursue their passions. If you ever get a chance, go check out their facilities, and you can get things repaired. You want your car painted? They'll paint it, just got to pay for the paint, all right? And all kinds of things, services like that. So really reach out and find out more about them. I look forward to more and more partnerships with that organization and helping our students. Although I did not see any push carts. That was not part of the thing. Oh, and that ends my statements. Thank you. Next on the agenda, awards and recognitions.
President Pantera, I'd like to invite the governing board down to the floor for tonight's awards and recognitions.
Good evening, President Pantera, governing board members, Dr. Corson, members of cabinet, and attendees, both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have several recognitions to share with you. This evening, we'll be inviting our honorees to the front of the room for their recognition and photo. When your name is called, please make your way to the front of the room. Our first honoree tonight is the winner of the PV Schools poster contest for the Everyday Counts in Arizona attendance campaign. This campaign emphasizes that consistent attendance is crucial for fostering academic success, building stronger communities, and ensuring that sustainability of our schools. And this student's colorful, beautifully crafted poster exemplifies our journey of excellence. Please help me welcome from Desert Shadows Elementary School, Lila Taylor. The marketing department certainly likes to see future, hopefully, marketers, public relations professionals. Next up, our recognition is from the Paradise Valley Education Support Professionals Group. This is the Education Support Professional of the Month award presented this evening by Sean Webster, PVSEA President.
Good evening, President Pantera, Governing Board, Dr. Corson, Cabinet, and guests. My name is Sean Webster. I'm the PVSEA President, and tonight I am excited to present the January ESP of the Month Award to Bonnie Gilmore, Campus Support at North Ranch. It's my absolute pleasure to recognize Bonnie as our ESP of the Month. Bonnie greets every student and staff member and parent with a warm smile and often a catchy tune at this crosswalk. She is famous for her positive energy, singing, and dancing, making mornings brighter for everyone. Bonnie goes above and beyond building relationships and connections with our students, especially those who may have had a difficult day, taking time to learn every employee's name and offering a helping hand whenever needed. Bonnie collaborates closely with our teachers and staff, always making sure that students are supported during recess and lunchtime. One of her many wonderful initiatives is the Woo-Hoo Wednesday, a special celebration in the cafeteria that Bonnie decorates with her own personal touch. She ensures that every opportunity for this event is fair and fun, making every student feel special. Her creative spirit and enthusiasm and enthusiastic costumes light up all of our spirit days. Bonnie's dedication is unmatched, whether helping out in a classroom, working one-on-one with a student, or joining in recess games. She does all of it with kindness, patience, and a big smile. Bonnie's attention to detail and even remembering to wave at every staff member in the morning just shows how much she cares about our North Ranch family. Bonnie embodies everything that makes North Ranch a wonderful place. She creates a positive, caring environment where everyone feels safe, valued, and celebrated. We are truly grateful for all the things that Bonnie does for us every single day. Thank you, Bonnie, and congratulations on being ESP of the Month.
Next is the recipient of the Paradise Valley Education Association's Recognition for Professional Standards Awards for Teachers. The honoree this evening will be introduced by Ms. Heather Schmidt, PVEA President.
I mean, thanks, friends. That's not, oh my goodness. I've missed you guys too. Happy New Year. Good evening, President Pantera, Dr. Corson, Governing Board and Cabinet. My name is Heather Schmidt, and I am proud to serve as the president of the Paradise Valley Education Association, representing the certified employees of PV. This evening, I get to do our props, and I will start with, this might be the best one I've done in 18 months. Greenway. Well done. Tonight I get to recognize Callie Wiesman, who is an ELL teacher at Greenway Middle School, where they celebrated with the entire school. I was handed a microphone. I think the entire day might have been disrupted. I'm sorry. Thank you to Mr. Lurch and Ms. Alejo for making that happen and so we could celebrate. I wish every celebration was that much fun. Here's what was shared with me about Ms. Wiesman. It is clear that Callie is an essential member of the Greenway Middle School community, and her colleagues are right to recognize her exceptional dedication. Callie loves Greenway, and she shows that love inside and out of the classroom. She brings a dedication to our school that not every school is so lucky to have. She loves every one of our students by ensuring that they are held to high standards and provided the type of education that they deserve every single day. She's always going above and beyond to ensure that her students have engaging activities to connect with the curriculum. In addition to that, she promotes kindness and caring all day long throughout No Place for Hate, energizing our students to stand up for one another. Not only does she commit herself to pushing students academically to improve their language skills, but she is also responsible for so many of our school-wide festivities. Anytime anyone needs an event planned, Callie steps up to help. All of these special events that create lifelong memories for our students had something to do with Callie. She doesn't get enough credit for the time, energy, and passion that she brings to Greenway, but we adore her and are incredibly lucky to have her on our team. She consistently goes above and beyond. She doesn't just fulfill a role, she actively shapes a more positive, supportive, and engaging environment. Her energy and enthusiasm are contagious. She truly makes Greenway a special place for all of the students and staff. And all of this within just 5 years as a teacher. Congratulations, Callie.
Sorry, just one more, just one more. Okay, we're good.
Can we get one more with everyone? Congratulations.
And that, President Pantera, concludes this evening's awards and recognitions.
Next on the agenda is our superintendent comments. Dr. Carson.
Thank you, President Pantera. Well, in PV Schools, we engage, inspire, and nurture students through high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. One of the cornerstones of this mission is our partnership with Parents and Guardians, and this month we are launching a new communications platform to make engaging with your school community easier. Parent Square, coming soon to all of our campuses, will offer parents, guardians, and high school students the ability to receive district, school, and classroom updates directly on a mobile phone or computer. Whether it's event reminders, schedule changes, or classroom news, Parent Square consolidates all school communication in one convenient place. Other impressive features include customizing how and when you receive Parent Square messages, replying to staff messages via text message after activating an account, accessing calendars and signups, and sending and receiving messages in your preferred language. Next week, all K-12 parents who do not already have an activated account will receive an activation email for Parent Square. After that, staff throughout the district will begin using the new communications platform at the time that best fits their classroom, school site program, club, or team. For more information, visit the Parent Square section of our district website. And then join PV Schools for the 16th Annual Community 5K Fun Run or Fun Walk. This event encourages active lifestyles among our staff, families, and community members. This event will be held on Saturday, January 31st, in person at Horizon High School. Registration is now open, and participants who register by January 17th will receive a t-shirt. For more information or to register, visit funrunsignup.com between now and January 31st. A special thanks to the PV Schools Education Foundation for providing the means to bring the Dancing with the Universe event to our district for the third consecutive year. Thank you also to our dedicated staff for putting this event together and helping create a dynamic learning experience for children. This year's performances reached third grade children from 18 schools. The event featured artists from several of Arizona's 22 federally recognized tribes. This experience provided a truly meaningful cultural learning opportunity for our children. January is School Board Recognition Month, and tonight I want to thank our governing board members for their dedication and service to public education and a special commitment to PV schools. This board in particular has devoted countless hours to making decisions that support student success, strengthen our schools, and reflect the voice of our community. They have played a vital role in shaping the future for PV students by setting policy and advocating for quality education. And this month provides a meaningful opportunity to recognize their hard work and commitment. And then finally, just a reminder about tomorrow's district-wide spelling bee at Paradise Valley High School. We're looking forward to recognizing and celebrating all of our spellers tomorrow. And this, President Pantera, concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Corson. Moving on, next on the agenda is items for approval G1, consideration and approval of revisions to Governing Board Policy JLC, Student Health Services and Requirements. Third reading. Turn over to Dr. Lindsay. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, President Pantera, Governing Board members, Dr. Corson, Cabinet, and guests. Tonight, you have before you consideration and possible approval of a third read of Policy JLC, Student Health Services and Requirements. At the December 11th, 2025 Governing Board meeting, revisions to the policy were requested to address formatting, citation of the correct statute, and specific language changes as motioned. The item was subsequently tabled until this evening. Following legal review, it was determined that the statute cited by ASBA in the policy was incorrect. Therefore, the third read references the correct statute, ARS 15-160.04, so thank you for that correction. Additionally, consistent with the board's motion, the policy language has been updated to state the district shall not release the personally identifiable information of a school employee or an individual who provides routine healthcare services to students. Formatting has also been revised to ensure consistency with other district policies. We recommend your approval on this third read, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
May I please have a motion to approve Policy JLC, Student Health Services and Requirements, third reading as presented?
So moved.
Are there any comments?
Just thank you.
In that case, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is items for approval G2, consideration and approval of proposed community education program fee increase, second reading. Dr. Corson.
Thank you, President Pantera. At our last meeting, the board had an opportunity to discuss the proposed community education rate adjustments, and tonight we're bringing this forward for your consideration. We recognize that these programs, particularly preschool and other community education offerings, are important to many of our families, and we do not take the impact of these rate changes lightly. At the same time, revenues from community education play an important role in supplementing our M&O budget and help support district operations and programming that benefits students across the district. Our intent is to thoroughly balance the financial realities we face with our responsibility to be mindful of the families who participate in these programs. With that context, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lindsay and Ms. Wilcox to walk the board through the details of this recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Corson, and good evening again to everyone. As Ms. Wilcox makes her way to the podium, I want to thank the board for their requests as a result of the first read on this topic last month. As you will hear from Natalie tonight, our team has acted upon those recommendations, and she has updated information to share with you as you consider the proposal. Again, I'd like to thank the Community Ed team for all their hard work and due diligence on this project over the last several months. As Dr. Corson said, our intent is to thoughtfully balance our financial realities while being mindful of the impact that it has to our families. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Wilcox.
Good evening, President Pantera, Governing Board members, Dr. Corson, Cabinet, and guests. Tonight, I want to present a second read of the Community Ed rate recommendation. As I shared last month, this proposal outlines a plan to increase fees beginning in July of 2026 and implementation of annual adjustments to community education rates based on district costs. The adjustment is necessary to ensure long-term sustainability of our programs as we continue to face rising operational costs, increase in personnel costs, supplies, and materials. During the first reading, you asked that we consider surveying families to obtain input regarding potential program increases, provide information pertaining to the process that we use for registration. You asked for information regarding our advertising and to determine ways that we might support families with financial assistance. So tonight I want to share information on each of these topics. As a reminder, Community Ed currently contributes about $470,000 to our pre-K programs, in particular, our Title and our ECA programs. Those are early childhood academies. We support our Title I families in navigating an important early school experience, and we also work to contribute to the district's maintenance and operation budget. As Ms. Deek shared in the December meeting, Title I funding has been reprioritized to serve more students at the K-12 level and is no longer available to fund individual pre-K classrooms. To continue to provide a valuable service and an academic advantage to our Title I and pre-K families, we would like to create a low-cost option. Community schools could be a program utilizing the funds that community education currently contributes to offset the tuition. With this, we will identify the communities who will be best served by the community schools program based on registration. Families can explore these options by attending our Pre-K Universe events that are held in conjunction with each school's kindergarten Pre-K information night, and we will also host our own separate Pre-K information night available for parents to attend with us virtually to have a good understanding of all of our Pre-K options. So when we talked about the community preschools, low-cost option, it's our proposal to create a program that would be $260 per month. This structure would allow children and families in these communities to still have a high-quality pre-K option at a greatly reduced rate. By approving this concept, it will allow us to begin gathering interest and commitment from our Title I communities. We can also start planning a scholarship program based on financial need, which I will review in just a moment. In addition to the reduced tuition model, simultaneously we'll continue to work with external community partners such as Head Start. Consistent with our other preschool models we have in the district, enrollment will begin this month. We will continue to partner with our elementary sites to share information with families to advertise for these programs. We're deeply committed to the early childhood programs, and we want to continue to make a difference in these communities by offering a low-cost option for them. We know that even at a reduced rate, access to programs can be a challenge for some families. As a result, we're creating an income-eligible scholarship program for our Title I families who are interested in attending a community preschool but may not have the means to do so. We will work with federal programs as they have committed a portion of their budget to provide tuition assistance. Families will complete a scholarship application. Funds will be granted based on eligibility. Although we have families whose DES applications have been approved and we receive funds on their behalf, someone did share with me that there are very long wait lists right now. And so it is our goal to partner with federal programs utilizing the federal poverty guidelines and mirroring some scholarship processes that neighboring districts use, and to develop a scholarship program and application process of our own. Based on the feedback that we received from the board in December, we created a survey to gather information about the impact of rate increases to our families. 1,596 surveys were sent. We received 98 responses. We received replies from families in both our current tuition and non-tuition programs. Due to winter break falling between this meeting and the last governing board meeting, we sent the survey directly after returning the previous week, right after break. The survey was open from Monday until January 6th until the past Sunday, the 12th of January. While we realize the response rate isn't as high as we would have liked, the data does reflect accurate opinions of families within our program, knowing that often survey responses are provided by those who are most for something or most against a specific topic. We feel comfortable using the information that's been provided to us to provide some guidance when combined with our other information that we've collected. The survey revealed that families highly depend on the care that we provide, and they have a very favorable view of the programs. Items of great importance include the safety and security of their children and having competent staff. Families rate the location and operating hours as important factors as well in determining their care. When analyzing the responses about potential increase in tuition, a large portion of our families state they would absorb the cost, with a few making other adjustments, such as potentially the number of days that they might participate in a program. Overall, they state that they would continue enrollment with no changes. That was the single most selected response. Some state that they may leave the program or switch to a lower cost child care option if they find that one exists somewhere. And some also indicate that they would need to discontinue participation in child care or consider different options or just forego care. Some of those have to do sometimes with the age of the students. Also, 19% of our respondents stated that they weren't sure what they were going to do. So we understand that the importance of clear communication regarding the structure of any potential increase, as well as the new rates, are important for our families to be able to make their decisions. We also talked about program closure and recognizing that without rate increases, we may have to make some difficult decisions about programming. Families were asked how program closure would impact them. Response after response indicated that the closure of any program would pose a major challenge for a majority of the families. They know that there's significant difficulty in finding alternative care. They cited impact of program closure as significantly difficult to find something that would be suitable. Also, a substantial portion of our families would face potential financial strain due to higher alternative costs that they know are out and available in other places. Many of our families felt that it would have a negative impact on their child's education and social development. This underscores that the program provides not only care, but also affordable and appropriate care that would be hard to replace. A dominant theme is the high perceived value of the programs, such as Mascot, Little Cubs, our early childhood centers, and our pre-K classroom. And there is a lot of praise for the staff, which families view as essential to their child's well-being and development. Many families describe the programs as having immense value. Specific staff members were lauded for being outstanding and for providing top-tier care. When discussing pre-K, comments frequently mention the program's helping children thrive, leading to immense improvement in their social and cognitive development, and offering a priceless addition to their education by helping to prepare them for kindergarten. And those are quotes from parents. And when asked about Mascot Club, they view the program as an essential service. The care is described as essential, and it's relied upon heavily by working parents who are often without viable alternatives. There is deep concern about any possibility of program closure. And as stated here, comments frequently state a desire to maintain a high-quality program versus maintaining the current rates. Some families, especially those who are district employees, express a concern over the financial impact of potential increases. Several comments highlight that the program's affordability is a critical factor for staff. Many respondents are interested in the proposed rates so that they're able to plan responsibly. Several suggested we consider financial adjustments, such as providing a greater discount for multiple children, creating a sliding fee, for part-time attendance, offering scholarships, or seeking alternative funding methods like fundraising or using tax credits. Many parents indicated that they would be willing to accept tuition increases, especially if the money were dedicated to improving staff quality, for staff compensation, or for program enhancements. The most frequent condition for accepting a price increase is that the funds directly benefit the income of the teacher and the staff members who are the hearts of these programs. Again, those are quotes. As a reminder from the presentation in December, approximately 85% of our budget is allocated to staff salaries and benefits in community ed. Some families suggested using increased tuition to implement a stronger, more structured curriculum and to provide more funding for crafts and planned activities. The cost of those supplies and materials has also increased. We understand that rate increases are challenging. We bring this out of necessity to maintain financial viability and to keep up with the rising costs that we have for salaries and benefits. Rising costs, increased wages, and the reprioritization of Title I funding all place us in a position of bringing this proposal to you at this time. At the December Governing Board meeting, you asked how we make families aware of our programs. There are several ways we connect, both in person and virtually, with our families. As of tonight, we have about 50 families who have signed up to attend our virtual pre-K information night, and that's something that's been on our website. It's recently posted, so I'm pleased with that level of response. And each school, each pre-K teacher is partnering with their school kindergarten information night. The information is communicated on our website. We're sharing information in an upcoming podcast. We have a newsroom article that's posted. We have flyers that have been made for each individual site that are handed out as individuals go to the actual school, asking for information. We have posters notifying families of registration dates. Emails have been sent out to all of our benefited staff, and they are beginning the registration process now. Our returning families have been notified of their registration dates via email and also at the site. We work with Marcom to ensure registration information is visible and accessible. In addition, each of the pre-K teachers being at their site, we also will have our child development centers open, and they will be hosting events for families as well. For more information, families can go to our website and find a step-by-step visual guide of how to register, and they can call our office at any time for assistance. I've included just a picture of the preschool information night that will be coming up, and also an example of the information that families receive, a visual representation of how to register and how to create accounts and log in, find the information that they need. I am providing a quick overview of the rate proposal. As you saw during the first read, the rates for Mascot. As a reminder, the proposed rates are in green. Next are the rates for our child development centers. The child development centers are at Little Pioneers and Little Cubs, and they are in green as well. And then finally, our pre-K proposal is in green for our proposed pre-K rates. During the first read, I also shared proposals for the following: enrichment fees, high school, summer school, and then our non-school day camps. A board member reached out to ask about the daily rate as it was listed in the first read and why the daily rate for camp that we were proposing was lower than the 3-day option, while noting that the daily rate is typically higher. In our work with all of the rates, I believe it was an oversight that we did not adjust this rate in 2023 when we should have. We did not apply the same incremental increase to the daily rates as we had to the 3 and 5-day options. As a result, it remained and has remained at a lower rate. Thank you for pointing out the discrepancy. We have adjusted accordingly, and you will see that on that slide. In summary, we do make the following recommendations consistent with our December 1st read: to increase the child care program fees as proposed, to add the $10 non-refundable registration fee for our enrichment programs, and to increase high school summer school fees by $5. With your approval of this proposal, we will continue exploration with Southwest Human Development as a possibility of expanding our Head Start and early Head Start programming within the schools, as well as partnerships that may benefit the district. We'll share the fees with the community as part of the 26-27 program enrollment. And we'll review some of the input from the community surveys and determine which might be feasible. Some of those, again, the things that families suggested had to do with a sliding fee. Family suggested bringing back a concept that was in community ed before, year-round level pay, which allows families to spread their costs out over 12 months, providing a greater sibling discount. I will share that I know that our surrounding districts, they often are offering 10%. We offer 15%. There is another district that does also offer 15%, but it's generally 10% that other districts are offering. Someone suggested we set premium hours, perhaps charging more for the hours between 6 and 7 a.m. and more after from 5 to 6:30 at a premium rate. We're asked to consider extending our bridge program. We'll review all of these implications and the various suggestions and consider their feasibility. We were also asked to consider an increase of the employee discount. At this time, 20% is the amount that we offer, and that does not have tax implications for our employees. Anything over 20% is considered taxable income, and per the Auditor General, is considered a gift of public funds. If approved, I will work with federal programs to finalize the financial assistance application. Additionally, moving forward, we will work to implement proposed annual increases as needed to avoid larger increases every 3 years. As I shared before, we've taken considerable time to make certain we provide accurate data. We are seeking approval of the rate increases out of a financial necessity for our programming in the district. We don't take it lightly. Everyone has said that. It's a challenging conversation and a difficult topic. I certainly appreciate all of the work with the team that has worked alongside me and Dr. Lindsay, your support as we have worked through this, and I bring this proposal to you. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that thorough presentation. I appreciate the work you've done on this. I believe we need a motion to approve the community education program fees increase second reading as presented.
So moved.
And now, any discussion or questions? Dr. Lynn?
Given that the material was not provided with sufficient time for thorough review or follow-up, and a second read material appears to have minimal changes with several previously raised concerns remaining unanswered, The district has not clearly demonstrated how this proposed change is in the best interest of our students. Rather, it addresses administrative considerations. The district needs to take time to further develop and clarify this proposal, and the board needs time for deeper review, discussion, and consideration before taking action. For these reasons, I motion to defer a vote on this agenda item for the remainder of the school year and refer this topic to a study session.
Okay, we have an alternative motion.
I second.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion on this secondary motion? Now, would you read your motion again, please?
Yes, I can. Given that the material was not provided with sufficient time, it was provided at 5 p.m. last night, through review of follow-up and secondary read material appears to have minimal changes with several previously raised concerns remaining unanswered. The district has not clearly demonstrated how this proposed change is in the best interest of students, rather how it addresses administrative considerations. The district needs to take time to further develop and clarify the proposal, and the board needs time for a deeper review, discussion, and consideration before action. For this reason, I motion to defer this vote on this agenda item for the remainder of the school year and refer this topic to a study session.
So the actual motion is to defer consideration proposed community education program increase fee, increase to
I'm
the,
deferring the entire agenda
to the end of
item
the year.
until after the school year, and I would like to see it move to a study session.
I just want to write this down so I have it. Thank you. Any discussion on this particular motion?
So if we were to defer and not vote one way or the other, so then would that basically mean for the entire next school year, we continue status quo as it is for the next, for this like 2026, 27 fall school year? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
That is what
Right,
I'm
I just
asking.
want to make sure,
Yes.
obviously, because we need stability for families and
Yes,
staffing.
and I can give multiple reasons as to why I believe this is the case. Enrollment starts I just got the email at the end of the month. It feels like a very short timeline to be communicating to our parents this change in such a short timeline. I have multiple other reasons why we weren't provided enough time to sufficiently review the material and ask any questions ahead of time. I raised significant questions that I have in this presentation that we were just given, which I'd be happy to discuss further. I feel like we have not been given enough time, nor has enough time been given to the feedback given on the surveys to actually consider this move right now without them taking more time as a district to do the due diligence on the feedback they've been provided, but also spend more time addressing some of our concerns from the last meeting, because there's multiple in here that haven't been addressed.
Mrs. Christensen?
Yeah. President Pantera, so we're still discussing the not the main motion, but now we're discussing the secondary motion, and I will remind governing board members and President that we do have an upcoming study session on February 19th, I believe it's mid-February, and perhaps if we do this and vote to defer, have it in a study session, perhaps we can put it in another agenda before the end of the year, but that it might be helpful to. Yeah, but I understand that your motion is to defer it all the way to the end of the year.
Correct,
right?
because people are making decisions now
Got it.
for their programs, and so to not defer until the following school, to defer would need to defer all the way through the end of this year and keep the status quo for next year, because it is not fair for parents for us to take this to study session in February and change after they've already registered for programs.
Alternatively, could we revert back to the original motion, vote on that, and still have a study session, depending on how that vote goes, to discuss this for the future? No. So we would have to,
Vote on this motion first.
in order to even have a study session.
We need just to deal with the issue right now, this motion, and then we can, after yea or nay, then make plans on what to do next. Any other comments? Mrs. Greenberg?
If this motion were to be approved, what would happen to our Title I programs that going into the new year will no longer be funded? Well, what happens if we were to pass this motion? What are we looking at if we do not increase fees, if we, at the present time, if we don't make these alterations with, the title monies that won't be coming in for our pre-K, et cetera? So if we do not, either we don't pass the increases or we pass the secondary motion to defer, what happens?
Would you like me to help you on that one, Ms. Wilcox? Thank you.
can do
Okay. Basically, I think what you said specifically, Mrs. Greenberg, related to title is accurate, but Mrs. Copen may be able to clarify that. I think maybe what might be the more important consideration for the board in this is that, if you remember from the first presentation that Mrs. Wilcox provided, we are already having, there was about $1.4 million in carry forward in community education. They're using about $800,000 of that this year to be expected, which only leaves $600,000 for next year, and increased costs. If there's no associated increased revenue with that, then the M&O budget will have to pick up those increased costs. I would estimate probably somewhere around $400,000. And just as a reminder, we're already looking at a mid to high 7-digit reduction to our M&O budget for next year. So just a consideration if you do choose to table this for the rest of the year.
In addition, we would evaluate programs and the program viability and really have to be very careful with our numbers. Sometimes we have had pre-K classrooms that have smaller numbers because of the community and not wanting to take a program away from a community. So that's been a decision we've made, and that would be something we would evaluate very carefully.
It's my understanding we have some Title I schools that have many aides and teachers who need decisions on what programs are going to be happening right away. Is that correct? Like at least 10 aides I can think of off the top of my head that are waiting for this to happen. How does that affect them?
Considering the community schools concept, that is part of our goal to be able to maintain some of those programs at those title schools. And that, yes, if there are no programs because of the repurposing or the redistribution of the funds, then we would not have programs in those title schools.
So these people would be in limbo or don't know what they're going to do. I mean, these are aides. It's tough for our district to get aides now as it is, to do these different programs. And just makes it more difficult to hang on to them, I'm thinking, when we defer these kind of things, if we don't need to.
May I, Ms. Wilcox? May I?
Yes. I didn't
Sorry
know
about
who
that.
was talking.
Where did that come from? I think I understand what you're getting at, and the answer is yes. We have several employees who are very much pre-K employees who don't have positions right now, who are anxiously waiting to understand what opportunities may or may not exist. And in my experience in particular, we're talking about people that their heart is all in on pre-K. So they are anxiously awaiting to understand those opportunities.
So cooking this to the end of the year would impact them in a very negative manner, right?
We may not have positions for them in pre-K. We may have positions for them in other areas, but not in the area in which they would prefer.
So this is feeding right into my concern that this decision has already been made. This decision has already been made by the district. You just need our sign off to move forward with it, which is my biggest concern with what is being brought to us. We are not allowed to govern here. We are being handed something and we're being told this is what you get. You accept it out how it is. We have already made these decisions and taken steps in this direction. And so you need to sign off on this and this is how it's going to be. It doesn't feel like a governance. It feels like where you put your feet to the fire We're telling you what you have to do. You don't get a choice here. You don't get to ask questions. You don't get to point us in a different direction. You take what you get and you accept it. And that is not the role of a governing board. We are here to govern, to help the district make decisions. We are not being asked to help here. We're being told this is the only option you have and this is the one you take. And that is not our role as a governing board. Our role is to govern and ask questions and understand what is happening, not simply take it as is when we have questions and you have not addressed them as a district.
Just, so I'm going to go back to a comment that you made, President Pantera, which is, obviously we don't want anybody to be in limbo, which is why I'm seeking some clarification, because my understanding that the motion that we're currently discussing is that we would continue status quo for all of next year. So we would continue to have the conversation at a study session potentially, but my understanding of the motion is we table this for a potential vote, not to go into effect next school year, potentially the following year. Is that correct, Dr. Lim?
Correct. That is what I'm asking to do, that our programs stay as is for the upcoming school year, and we get more time as a governing board, and the district gets more time to vet the information they're being given and bring us a full strategic plan about what we're doing with our early childhood programs, because this seems like an ad hoc decision based on some funding, and we don't make decisions about our students based on the cost. We make decisions based on what is best for our students, and I have not heard anything that feels like what's best for our students. It feels like this is costing us money, so we need to get rid of it, and that doesn't feel comfortable to me to vote on it in the way that it's been provided to us.
Any other comments? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just add that, it's not lost on me that we are living in a time where we really need to be looking at our budget, and we have significant stresses and cuts that have to be made. At the same time, we need to balance that with the fact that we're talking about preschoolers who, and in my mind, if we're going to invest in any population where we're going to see a return on investment, it's preschoolers. So, whether we're talking about, special education, whether we're talking about getting them school ready, to me, this is not really where we should be making these cuts. And so I just want to make it known, I understand, but at the same time, I think we got to do better than this. I'm really concerned about these families. I'm really concerned about how quickly it's all kind of, being enacted potentially if we were to vote yes on this. And I am also, so it's about the preschool and it's about the Title I families, and it's also, I am very, very concerned about our staff, and I know you are too. I know we all are. I don't feel like this is the answer.
Mrs. Christensen?
Yes. I would like to thank my colleagues, Dr. Lim and Ms. Wani, for bringing up those concerns. What I wrote down was very similar to your concerns. I know we're going through a lot of challenges right now, and this is kind of why I continue to harp on out-of-state travel and cutting spending, because we do need to lower costs and we need to increase revenues. While this will increase revenue, it's going to be hurting some of our most vulnerable community members, the title schools and our lower socioeconomic families. And so depending on how this vote goes, I would encourage us as a district to over-communicate this, because not everybody opens their emails, not everybody, especially two working family members that are trying to support and put food on the table, they may not open the emails or not read a poster or a handout coming in a backpack. And so I feel rushed as well, and I feel we need to do more due diligence. I think having a study session on this matter would help, and just really think of some alternative solutions. And so so I thank you for bringing this up, and I asked to call the question.
Well, do you have a second?
I already seconded the motion.
For the calling the question?
That means that we're supposed to vote on the motion.
Well, I have
that
something I
Ms.
want to say about it
Copeland- okay.
before we call the question. I thought it was a very thorough presentation, and I had a lot of my questions. It's a tough decision to make, like when you look at closing schools, anything that impacts the communities is a hard thing to do. Okay, it's tough, but we all agree the economics of everything has been very challenging. I just wonder how much, kicking it down the road, it's just going to make it more painful later. We're still going to make some kind of cuts anyway, some kind of cuts. But by prolonging it, we just add to the pain and the unnecessary pain to the people involved with this.
President Pantera and the Governing Board, I just wanted to add some clarification to the Title I piece. So in the first presentation, it was explained that for fiscal year 27, which would be next year, we have reprioritized funding for Title I to go primarily to our K-12, which preserves their current staffing during their school day for our kindergartners through 12th grade. And that is a prioritization that then eliminates the preschool programs funded by that Title I. So someone had asked earlier, how would Title I be able to, if we tabled this item, how would Title I proceed? So Mrs. Wilcox mentioned Head Start and pursuing some of those opportunities. That's something we're still looking at because that's good partnerships. The DES pieces are still there. And then we would still, we have worked to look at our fiscal year 27 Title I budget, and we have been able to estimate a fund for a scholarship as presented in the presentation. That could still hold. The scholarship, though, would be for the current rates. That would, if we don't change the rates, it would be for the current rates, and we can scholarship as needed financially. But the rates would be, we wouldn't have a reduced rate preschool, if that makes sense, because they would fall under the regular rates. And we could still work the scholarship. It's just the money is set, so we would only be able to do until that money is exhausted, because we would have to use that line of money. I just wanted to add that clarification.
Thank you for that. Mrs. Greenberg.
Okay, I guess I'm still trying to sort of get a feel for the balance here. It seems to me that if we were to vote yes to defer this till next year, what are we looking at? Just, we would have to maintain the rates where they are? Is that what you're asking, that there be literally no changes? If we were able to, say, push this another month, bring it to a study session, and then see if there's any revision, whatever, bring this still to a vote this year. I know that you're itching to have registration open, but I'm just trying. It feels like if we push it till next year, we're putting community ed and these programs in a possibly untenable position by not raising rates at all, since we don't have we have no mechanism.
Correct.
Currently. One of the pieces you're asking is that we then would be able to implement year-to-year challenges based on COLA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't have that right now. So without approval from the board, everything stays exactly the same. And we're already using 800 of that 1.4 mil carry forward, so we're probably looking at operating at a deficit because we don't have enough carry forward going into next year. That's what we're looking at if we push, defer this. So is there a way to potentially figure out a happier medium where we still consider this year?
Mrs. Greenberg, if I could add to that, President Pantera, is that okay? Sorry. The mysterious voices over here. You've sort of refreshed what I've said, and I think I want to say it a slightly different way. When we look at that one-page budget sheet that I share with the district, in this case, to be transparent about our financial circumstances, if nothing were to happen tonight with the fees, I would add a line that would talk about a supplement to the community education budget, and that would add to the additional expenditures that the M&O budget would have to take on, and add to the cuts that would need to be made for certified staff and classified staff and administrative staff. In addition, you know, if increases aren't made this year, that just compounds the need for further increases, which I think is the point you were making at the beginning of your comments. And I don't know if Mrs. Wilcox wanted to add anything to that.
No, I think the other thing is we have two different things that we're talking about, the funding for the programs, the tuition-based, and we're talking about the reprioritization of the title. And if that money is reprioritized, then there would not be those programs, and that's what would be different.
Dr. Lim?
So my intended initial motion was actually to separate these and table the Title I portion, but I actually didn't separate it, and I'll tell you why. So my biggest concern with Read 1 was that we were taking the cost of those Montessori, our gifted program, and our Little Scholars program, and we are increasing them significantly from the 800s to the thousands. And I pointed out in the last session that when you combine that with the mascot fee in the 400s, that you have a fee that is higher than your infant program at your Little Pioneers and your Little Cubs program. I pointed out that there was a cost discrepancy and that it was more to have a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old in a Montessori program and get full continuation care for a working parent than it is to have an infant in a longer care program in our district. I pointed this out wholeheartedly. You guys did adjust those programs by $50, not by hundreds. The discrepancy is hundreds. It is $50. So I'll put this into context. Our current program would put you, if you were to do from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the afternoon with our preschool program, it is $1,675. I picked the Montessori program. I went right in the middle. So that is the cost of the program, including before and after school. Again, higher than our infant programs. I went ahead and pulled one of the programs that you guys cited as a reference point for the cost of that particular Montessori program. That particular Montessori program is $1,150 for 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our program is 9 to 3. So you get an additional hour for the preschool program, and it costs you less than our program. On top of it, they do offer before and after school for that to get you to a full workday. Theirs is $230, ours would be $429. Their total program is $1,380 for a month. So when you do this per year, because I decided to calculate our 10-month versus the 12-month, our program for 10 months is $16,750 for 10 months, where you can go to the private program, get Montessori for an additional hour of education, and get the same before and after school program for the same, actually less, $16,560 for 12 months. I pointed out that we have a huge discrepancy in our numbers. I made it very clear, and there has been absolutely no changes but $50 to that program. I have significant concerns that you aren't actually listening to the feedback that's being provided. And I provided this concern right up front that these numbers are wrong, and that the reason these programs were in the 800s is because they couple with our mascot programs to give parents a full continuation of care. But instead you are changing the prices, and they don't reflect how people are using the programs. And so it costs you more to have your child in our programs for 10 months than it does to have a child in a private program for 12 months. That is unacceptable, and that is why I didn't decouple them, because not only did you not listen to our changes with the concerns around the 260, but also the biggest concern I had with our preschool programs, our Montessori gifted and our Little Scholars, all which I know are straining families because I talked to these families, that the cost of the programs they have are putting financial strains on them. This is problematic, and I pointed this out and you didn't address it. And I didn't have time to bring this to you because I got it at 5 o'clock in the evening, the day before the meeting, and I am supposed to be making a decision. And I don't know how I'm supposed to make a decision on something and communicate the concerns I have and have feedback when I'm given it in just over 24 hours to review and get my questions back. This is not how we govern. This is not how we get the information we need to make informed decisions. I am happy to amend my vote or my motion to not be the end of the year. But I think we need to spend more time, and the district needs to spend more time working on this before we think about making these changes, because the information and the concerns we are giving you are not reflected in this second read.
Mrs. Christensen.
Thank you for that, Dr. Lim. My other concern is that we are still governing this district like it was 10 years ago, when we had 8,000 more students and with a revenue of 120 million more per year. There are cuts across the board that we could be making rather than passing it on to our parents, right? We need to take a good, strong look at budgeting and things like out-of-state travel, for instance, and other things that we do. I just find it hard to believe that we can't, that we would have to pass this on to the tax. And they are taxpayers because they're living in our districts, so they're paying for the schools, they're paying for additional, help with their students, and so it's just very frustrating to have this being so rushed, as Dr. Lim points out. And I will point out also, you mentioned 5 o'clock. Dr. Lim works full-time, so she got it last night. She has children, and several of the governing board members work full-time, and so it's difficult to make these types of decisions if we're really going to govern the way we should. So thank you for your comments, Dr. Lim. And, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Pantera. I just wanted to add that we understand and we worked really hard to put the information from the December meeting and to gather that to provide it to you. And I recognize that the PowerPoint was shared with you last night. We did have winter break in there, and we weren't able to provide the survey to our families due to the last board meeting and that last week before break. So we were working with a very tight timeline, and it was important for us to share accurate and comprehensive information for you. That was also previously shared with Cabinet. So I do recognize the tight timeline. I would also add that, with our preschool programming, with not increasing fees, all of those teachers are certified, which is different from our CDC classrooms. And so those are higher cost salaries that we've been covering for the last 3 years without an increase. So I know that Natalie has worked very closely with the finance team here at the district to review all of that information. And again, we know that impacting our families with proposed increased fees is a challenge. And I know we've said it multiple times, we do not take that lightly. We just want to be able to have these programs sustain.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Dr. Lim, so you were saying that maybe it didn't have to go to the end of the year. That's a possibility of amending your motion.
I am happy to consider amending my motion to not basically put a moratorium till the end of the year, that we might make some considerations. I don't think that's going to change my opinion on the 260, but I do have significant concerns that I think we need to vet during a study session, including the survey that was open for a very short window of time. And if the numbers are accurate, you reach 6% saturation, which is not saturation. So you received very little feedback given the numbers that you have provided. So this feels more like a smokescreen to try and convince us that this is sufficient to move forward, and it's not sufficient to move forward. And I'm having no problem calling out that this is insufficient to move forward.
So you wouldn't be, say, willing to separate the Title I portion so they could go forward and build their programs and do?
I don't
and
feel
put a hold on
comfortable with them trying to close our Title I programs. It sounds like those decisions have already been made, and we're not governing that, and that is very problematic with me. I'm willing to amend my motion to not basically moratorium us from voting on this before the end of the year. That being said, I don't think that's in the best interest of our families to vote on this after they have already registered. So I believe it's in our best interest and will be best for our families if we do not vote on this until it affects 2027, 2028, and we take that cost and we go ahead and eat it as a district so that we do what is best for our students, not as best for our pocketbook. There are other ways, as Ms. Christensen said, to save money, and they are not at the expense of our families and our community.
Maybe call the question.
I'm still trying to clarify. So you're saying you're not going to change the deadline?
That being said, I'm not changing my motion. My motion stands
Okay.
as is, and I intend to stick with that motion.
And no more further discussion? Although then, we're voting on whether to vote on Dr. Lim's motion to suspend this, I'll read it again. Deferring consideration of proposed community education program increase fees to the end of the year. Did I read that correctly?
And refer it to study session.
And put it on the agenda for the first study session.
If we want to put it on the first one, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm happy to read my motion again if you would like.
No, I thought I read it right. Yes?
Close.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries 3-2. Which means we're deferring this to the end of the year, and we're going to have it on a study session. Okay, thank you. Moving to the next item on the agenda. Whoops, glasses. Next on the agenda is item for approval G3, acceptance. Wait a minute, is that correct? No, I skipped one. Oh, I am correct. Oh, that's pretty. Next on the agenda is items for approval G3, acceptance of gift and donations. At this time, I would like to thank all of our donors and call out a few of our generous donors. If I find my list, one moment. It's here somewhere. So I'd like to highlight some of them. We've got from for Desert Trails Elementary School, from their PTO is $6,792. School from Del Rito Partners Incorporated for $1,000. We got Greyhawk PTO. They put together quite a few donations here, totaling maybe $1,300. Excellent. From the Kevin Rotham Sports Foundation for Horizon High School, $4,000. That's for their baseball program. And I love baseball, so that's great. Mercury Mine Elementary Parent Teacher Group, they have donated a shade structure for students in the pickup area. I believe that's valued at, what, $26,000, according to what I'm reading here. Is that correct? Yeah. These are just few, and we really thank all the people that make these donations. Without you and people making those donations, this would be a poor experience we can offer our kids. I need a motion then to approve the acceptance of gifts and donations as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. So now we're at the part of the agenda which was moved, correct? It's now G4, and that is consideration approval of elementary leadership professional travel request. You have a motion to vote on that?
So moved.
All right, discussion then. Mrs. Christensen?
So we just had a lengthy discussion about increasing expenditures for our most vulnerable families while we are still sending people on out-of-state travel. So I just want to go over some numbers. 10 years ago, as I mentioned, we had about 32,000 students. And I'm going to do just rough estimates of numbers here. 32,000 students. Now, because of declining enrollment, we have 24,000 students. That's a loss of 8,000 students. In terms of business, loss of students means loss of revenue. So our expenditures have gone down significantly. If you multiply 8,000 students lost by a very conservative estimate of 15,000 students, which is funding that we get per student for average daily membership, that is a loss of $120 million a year. As I mentioned before, we are governing this district like it was 10 years ago when we were rolling in the cast. I understand we do pass bonds and overrides. That is not for maintenance and operations. It's not for salaries. However, our taxpayers are being burdened. People are suffering, and we continue to govern and make decisions as if we're still rolling in the dough. We've closed 3 schools recently, and it's been stated in previous board meetings that we're going to have to close additional schools in the future. I had a conversation with Maricopa County Superintendent Shelley Boggs, and she's indicated that she has budget for staff and training, and that districts can request certain things. The Arizona Department of Education also has budgets for staff and training, and if we can do some creative thinking, maybe partnering with other districts, these are tough times for all of Arizonans. We can come up with things where we bring training in-house, maybe share costs with other districts. There are ways to do this, but and the state legislature has also indicated it increased oversight. I mean, you've seen a lot of the fraud and waste, what's happening in other states across the nation, and that there's a lot of fraud and waste. I'm not saying that there is here, but what I'm saying is that we really need to take a hard look at our budgets, and we need to do better with our expenditures to serve Arizonans better. So and that's why I pulled this out. And President Pantera, just for future note, anytime there's going to be an out-of-state travel for the remainder of the year, you might as well put it on the regular agenda, because I'm going to pull it out of consent every time, because we need to discuss these items.
Thank you for that advice, Mrs. Christensen. I'll take it under advisement. Dr. Corson, can you talk to us about this particular request of this this professional development?
Yes, thank you, President Pantera. And actually, Dr. Lindsay has some additional information about this particular travel she would like to share.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Corson. So this travel request is for Tammy Taylor. She's our District 21st Century Grant Coordinator. 21st Century is a federal grant, and we currently have 10 sites that receive that federal grant funding that totals for this fiscal year $1,138,000. So Tammy, as I mentioned, has been with our district and serving in 21st Century for the last 14 years. And so we reviewed this request very carefully. We definitely hear your concerns, Mrs. Christensen, about professional travel, and we went through this and had a lot of conversation about it. Because it is a federal grant funded, and knowing the cost of this trip is approximately $2,500 of that $1 million plus total revenue grant for the year, it is not impacting our district from our M&O. It's, like I said, completely federally grant funded. In addition, Tammy does take advantage of local professional development opportunities through ADE and has great partnerships and networking with folks all across the valley. This is an opportunity she felt to really enhance our programming. We've had this grant for many years, and we want to continue to build it. 21st Century, people know it as After the Bell, and it provides after-school academic learning and enrichment opportunities. And we know through research that's provided to us both from the federal government and from the State Department that this grant has a big impact on students and their achievement when they consistently come. And she wants to continue to learn strategies to build up our attendance with these programs, to support family engagement, to provide new programming options for our kids to entice them to want to stay after school and be a part of this, part of these grants. And so her going to this conference will allow her to learn new information, bring back to our district, work with all of the 21st Century Grant coordinators at each of our sites to build our program. So after reviewing all of that and looking at how this was funded through a federal grant, we felt like it was a good investment.
Well, I have a follow-up question. So the money, if we didn't approve this, the money's not going back to the district. It's part of the grant that we were given from the federal government. Is that correct?
Yes.
And isn't the requirement of the grant itself that the people, that some of the money is supposed to be spent on professional development?
Yes.
So if we didn't do this, we might lose the grant?
I don't think we would lose the grant, but there's money set aside and it's intended for continued professional development. And she has gone to a lot of the, I don't want to speak for her, I know she's here, but I know she's been a part of this grant for many years and has gone to and continues to go to local opportunities and just wants to get new, fresh, innovative ideas from a national perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, since this individual has gone several years, can you show us the metrics that shows this has increased academic achievement? And specifically, I know you mentioned that it has, but just saying that it doesn't always mean it. I would like to see solid numbers and also a plan of the train the trainer, and when she comes back, how she's going to implement this.
Sure. I can speak to that a little bit, and then if Tammy wants to add anything, I would invite her to do the same. We get feedback from ADE about the impact of the grant. As part of a grant requirement, they have to submit information from each of the sites related to attendance, and then the state looks at our academic outcomes from a state testing perspective. We also, as part of a grant requirement, we have to do a survey where we survey teachers, and that all gets shared with the state, and then the state shares back with us the impact that 21st Century is making at a state level. When it comes to how it's impacting students in our district and if it's effective in terms of their academic learning, it's one component of academic interventions that we have, in combination with in-school programming. So it becomes really difficult to tease that apart to know that it makes an impact. But we do know that with extended learning opportunities after school, when kids stay after and they regularly come, that it makes a difference with their academic learning. In addition, I would also add there's an enrichment component. So students that may struggle in the classroom have opportunities to learn a new skill. Tam and I were talking about a cooking class and a student learning how to make a scone and feeling success from that experience, and that boosting their confidence, which can translate to success in the classroom. So there are a lot of other benefits for 21st Century, and it keeps the kids supervised after school.
So that was a lot of words to say. You don't have specific metrics to show me right now that shows academic increase, academic achievement.
Yes,
So-
I do not have specific direct correlation for Paradise Valley about how our test scores are impacted just from participation in 21st Century.
Also, if we didn't utilize this money for something, can the grant money be used for other things that can be taught to maybe a wider variety of people, maybe many more educators, different, or does it specifically have to go to this conference?
It does not have to go to this conference, and our intent is always to maximize the federal dollars that are given to us, so we would use it in another way.
Okay, great. And just one more comment before. To me, it's very frustrating to
sorry.
say, I'm not done yet, Mr. President Pantera. I'll be done in just one moment. It's very frustrating to me when we say, oh, it's federal dollars, it's this dollars, it's this, and I get maintenance and operation is what pay teacher salaries, and if we had more of that, we could pay our teachers more. However, every penny we spend, this is not a private company. These are all taxpayer dollars, whether it comes from the federal, state, or our funds. overrides, it all comes from taxpayers. So it frustrates me when the district conflates and keeps saying, well, it's this bucket, so it's fine. It's still a waste of taxpayer dollars when we should be bringing things in-house and cutting budgets and doing things in a more fiscally responsible manner.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was going to call Mrs. Greenberg, who was waiting her chance to talk. Mrs. Greenberg.
Yeah, Mrs. Christensen, I absolutely understand your continued discussion about metrics. So I'd like to know, what is your expectation of what would happen in terms of what you would expect improve, what would you expect to see in terms of metrics?
Thank you. What I would like to see is start doing baselines. So in the business world, when you're measuring something, you take a baseline and determine what students learning. So if we're going to a conference that, say, is going to increase math skills, take a baseline metric. Yes, it's going to take a long time because over time, you're going to see that going to this conference is increasing math scores because we're learning new techniques. And so baseline means starting now. And I've had conversations with Dr. Corson on this matter. To me, we're going to conferences and we're not measuring. So we don't know. We don't know if it's really helping student achievement because ultimately that's the goal. When parents send their kids to schools, they want them to learn basics, math, reading, science, and there's other things too. And they want them to be safe. And if we can't prove and show, and we're continuing to spend money, taxpayer dollars, and we can't prove that, then we shouldn't be spending taxpayer dollars in that manner.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think this is something we do. I also would say that I think we know that our learners are all different. So even if we take a baseline and we have student A and student B and student C, and they were all exposed to, say, a new technique that somebody learned at a conference, it may click for student A, it may help for student B, and it may confuse student C. So I think it's difficult to, I understand what you want. I think, as with many things in education, it's difficult to be able to absolutely pinpoint and say that is helping, that isn't helping, because it's probably going to help somebody, may not help the next person, may not help the next person until the next year. So again, I think these are all factors that we consider.
Mrs. Christensen.
There's something called a mean, which is an average. So if you take a baseline and student achievement is here, some may come down, some may come up. But if the overall goes up, that means it's an increase in academic performance. If it goes down or stays the same, that means it's not helping. So I don't think it's hard. I do understand that learners all learn differently. But overall, if we're going to do something that is going to increase student achievement, you will see it increase. Even, some will increase up here, some may not increase at all, but overall, the mean is going to increase.
Personally, I think it's unrealistic to look for a one-to-one correlation in every one of our training programs for every student in this district. The time and money it would take to invest. If you look, we've been doing these programs like this one for years, and our achievement has been going up in the district. Seems like these kind of programs, in a general speaking, have been getting better because of these kind of trainings. Mrs. Christensen.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to do a visual. This is our expenditures over the, I've looked at the metrics at the state level. Our expenditures have gone up. Remember I talked about enrollment? That's revenue. That's going down like this. Student achievement has remained relatively flat. So even though we've increased the budgets over time, over the last 10 years, we're not seeing a direct correlation of student achievement to expenditures. About half of the state budget goes to education, and Arizona is not climbing. We've actually fallen a few points, and we're dead last in education. So we really maybe need to start governing and doing things a little bit, thinking outside the box, thinking, this, like it or not, this is a business. So when businesses have declining revenue, you have to make change. You either have to get a new product so you can sell more, or you have to decrease costs, so to remain afloat. Otherwise, you close, and you'll close more schools.
Mrs. Greenberg.
Well, I would disagree with saying public education is a business, but I don't think that's a conversation for the moment. But I would also point out, as you say, things are going down. Public funding from the legislature also has us just about dead last of the 50 states and DC. So there's something to be said for that. When there is I know there's always discussions about, well, where should we be? Well, if we could at least get to national average, which is about $5,000 more per student than where we are, that may help provide greater assistance.
Yep.
Mrs. Christensen.
Yes. So while I concur with you, we're not up to standard. When you lose 8,000 students in 10 years, then something is happening, and that is declining revenue. So we are a local controlled state. We govern at the local level, and we are losing students. And so I've been on this governing board. I'm going into my 4th year, and we keep losing students, but we were losing students well before I got on this board. So business as usual has to change, because it's not working, and so we need to start doing something different, because we all know the definition of insanity. So I'm hoping, this is why I harp on being fiscally responsible and setting the bar high for all our students, because I do want all our students to achieve at a high level. But if the expectation isn't changed and we don't encourage our students to achieve at that level, then things are never going to change. So I'm sorry that you disagree on this matter, but and schools do run like a business. We have budgets, we have revenues, we have expenses, we have overhead. Businesses don't get bonds and overrides, though, and so that helps a lot with funding. But it is, and if it's not run like a business, then you are Tolleson and school districts that are failed and they go bankrupt. So,
Do we have any more discussion on this specific travel request item? Ms. Dr. Lin.
So I just want clarity, because I think there's been a lot of back and forth. Ms. Taylor has never attended this conference, is that correct?
That's correct.
In the 14 years that she's been helping run these programs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just needed that clarity.
Any more discussion? Okay, then. All in favor of the motion to approve of elementary leadership professional travel request, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
nay.
Any abstentions? The motion passes 4-1. I believe that's the last thing on items for approval, which brings us to call to the public. Please turn your attention to the video monitors for the next section.
Call to the Public is about to convene. This portion of today's meeting allows the public the opportunity to address the governing board. Although state law does not require that the governing board hold a call to the public, the Paradise Valley Unified School District and its board have chosen to do so because we believe it's important to hear about concerns and issues from our community. While Call to the Public is not designed to be a discussion, the board is here to listen. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take any action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you and address individual concerns. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand, and to be able to do so in an open and collaborative way. All in attendance are expected to observe meeting rules, as well as rules of politeness and decorum, so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner.
Okay, we have 7 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. Please state your first and last name when you come to the podium. Our first speaker is Anna Sanchez, and next will be Howard Grigsby.
Hello, thank you, and good evening. My name is Ana Sanchez, and I am a member of this district. And tonight, I would like to address the board in regards to a teacher by the name of Jerry Michael Nanny. It has come to my attention that, I am here to request that you permanently release this teacher from all his duties as a teacher of PVUSD. His actions of playing a song to elementary school children that contains sexually explicit lyrics shows not only poor judgment, but a total disregard for the rule of law. He broke the following statutes. ARS 15-113, parental rights, says that Mr. Nanny did not seek parental approval and or the opportunity to opt out, as clearly stated by statute. If he doesn't understand his responsibility as a teacher, he should not be one. ARS 15-120.03, sexually explicit material is prohibited in school. He can't possibly claim that he did not know what the lyrics in the song were depicting. A girl from Tennessee has crazy visions and wicked dreams to become a stripper in Santa Monica. Some of the lyrics say, "Won't make mama proud, it's going to cause a scene. Having fun on the stage in my heels, where I belong every night at the Pink Pony Club. I am up and jaws are on the floor. Lovers in the bathroom and the line outside the door, black lights and a mirrored disco ball." I am very concerned that this person's background may not have been vetted properly and he may be a sexual predator. It wouldn't be the first time that this has occurred in the district. The third ARS that he broke was 13-3506, furnishing harmful material to minors. And likely he also violated the following board policies: GBEA, GBEB, GCQF, GBEF, and IJNDB. His actions have to have consequences, otherwise we are sending the wrong message to the rest of the faculty. An apology is not enough. What about the emotional and psychological disturbance that he has caused not only to the very young audience, but the parents whose rights have been violated? Who is going to cover counseling fees, and what if the district gets sued? We must preserve the innocence of our little ones, otherwise we lose our humanity. This type of exposure to children is inappropriate, and if the teacher's personal sexual preferences cannot be kept in his private adult world, he should not be teaching little children. I trust that this board will do the responsible thing and dismiss Mr. Nanny. Thank you.
Next is Howard Grigsby, followed by Susan Winder.
Hello, my name is Howard Grigsby, and I'm a proud member of this community as well as an employee of the school district. I stand before you to speak about an incident that happened on December 12th. I was in a classroom, students returned from gym, and you know they have odors from when they come playing in gym. The teacher in the room sprayed this child from top to bottom heavily with Lysol. This was very disturbing to me because I care about our students. I care about our students. And as she sprayed, she made the comment that her and this child had good rapport with one another. Another staff member of the classroom told her to raise the child's arm, the student's arms, and get under his arms. These are chemicals that they're spraying on the children. Yes, I do have a problem with this. This child could not cognitively tell her to stop because it's one of our special needs childs. what if the chemical had an adverse reaction? What would we have done then? It bothered me so that on December 16th, I emailed our special education director to request a conversation with her. She bounced it back to the assistant principal, who's good friends with this teacher. And I told the assistant principal what happened, and she said she would forward it to the administration. Upon leaving that meeting, I requested that, I explained to her that I didn't want to go back to that classroom because I knew because I exposed this to this, that there would be retaliation. Her comment was, she's not like that. Had the roles been reversed, I, as an African-American man, know that they would have walked me out of that classroom until an investigation was done. This has not been done as of yet. I refuse to go back to that classroom. I refuse to go back to that school at this time because of the retaliation. The retaliation has taken place, not only from the teacher, but that assistant principal and other staff members that they've included. This was not about me, it was about the child who got sprayed with Lysol, which could have been damaging. What if it was one of their children? What if it was one of your children? It's wrong in all aspects. We're here for the children. And those of us who work for the board are mandated by the state to report things. Just know that the state will know about what happened.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Susan Winder, followed by Stacy, I can't make this right, Hargrave? Okay, thank you. You know who you are then. Okay, good.
Yes, I'm Susan Winder, and I'm a taxpayer in the district. Good evening, Dr. Corson, Board and Cabinet. I would like to pose 2 questions for you to ponder regarding the music teacher and his inappropriate decision to play the LGBTQ Pink Pony song. Is this song part of the approved curriculum? And if not, has he been reprimanded for stepping outside of the approved curriculum? This song is a violation of President Trump's executive order of no DEI or SEL in schools. Was he reprimanded for violating the president's executive order? And I don't buy for 1 second that he didn't realize he made a mistake. It has become public knowledge that the student who was upset about hearing the song and her mother who reported it have been bullied. Does the district not have an anti-bullying policy against students? If so, why was this tolerated and those students involved were not held accountable for their behavior? I understand that the student was bullied to the point that the family has acquired ESA and sent her to a Christian school. 1 more student lost. One might ask why these students chose to bully the girl. Could it be because the parents bullied the mother on various sites on the internet for reporting the teacher's poor choice of music to the district? When I was a principal in the state of Michigan, the state legislature passed an anti-bullying policy that required the State Board of Education to put up a website where principals had to input the names of students who bullied other students. Maybe we need to create such a website for the parents so that such negative behavior displayed by them is not like that of a child. When a teacher is reported to have violated the above guidelines, it doesn't mean they are not a good teacher. It means they allowed their personal beliefs to interfere with the choice of curriculum. Thus, all the parents that spoke at the last meeting totally disregarded the actual issue and turned it into a lecture about what a great teacher he was. Parents need to understand the behavior their students observe from them results in the same behavior of their students. Thank you.
Next is Stacy, say that name again, please. Hargrader, and followed by Mary Beth Setchell. Setchell, is that correct? Seneschal? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I want to start by saying good evening and thank you all for offering me your time tonight and giving me this honor. Also welcoming Dr. Corson and new President Pantera. I was here for 3 reasons. The main one is my daughter has dedicated almost 4 years. She did repeat a grade, 4 years to the dual language immersion program, who is head by Amanda Lim, is the director of the MPO. What I want to call to the attention of the district is there is not a formal procedure for removing kids. I'm being told by my principal that upon 3rd grade, when a child fails, they just leave. My child has asked to still be part of the Mandarin performance, which is a very big deal. I almost missed it last year because of retaliation. I suffered an entire year of having to miss every school field trip and fail to come to support my daughter. I have volunteered at almost every event over the 4-year period possible as a proud member of my PTO. I lost the right to come to school. I lost the right to tour other schools, to find a better school. I suffered an almost an entire year of a trespassing order because I stood up for my daughter. I've endured all this. I've stuck with the program. My daughter has been one of only 9 kids in a group. I believe she's been held in that program just as a placeholder to guarantee their funding. Upon kicking her out, I asked for one simple thing. Can she still perform? Can she show what she's proud? Can she perform this year at the New Year's performance along with the rest of the students? She has an IEP. She's a special needs student with 12 different disabilities. And the special needs, they get their own number. She is not offered a place in the structured classroom, and that's the only difference between her and the other special needs students. I have asked at every single PTO meeting. I've continued to ask directly Ms. Rodriguez and Amanda Lim, come up with a better way to take these kids out of the program when they fail. My daughter failed because she was unsupported, not because she didn't have an interest in learning. And in fact, this program is presented by the district as a proud opportunity for dyslexic children who may be visual learners. My daughter did not receive a single visual support. In fact, she was told, we do things one way, sink or, float or sink or swim. And she sunk. And she's over here at almost 10 o'clock at night. She's in the back of this room because we're still fighting. And she'd had speech therapy very early this morning before school, and she has respite. She goes to a skills trainer for almost 3 hours every day after school. All of her medical things, the second reason I'm here is because she has a chronic illness form. It's right here. I turned it in August. 6 months ago, along with a very clear directive from my doctor that she has medically necessary disabilities, upwards of 12 different disabilities, growth hormone deficiency, all of it, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, autism traits. She goes to 12 to 40 hours of ABA therapy a week, speech therapy, and skills training every single day with a respite provider who picks her up from school. Last Friday, she got on the wrong bus. Last Friday, she was sent home on a bus that picks her up a half an hour late every day. She misses 2.5 hours a week of instruction because of your bus system
Thank you.
failing her.
Thank you. For your Mary Beth Seneschal, followed by Jeff Landry.
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Corson. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Mary Beth Seneschal. I'm a longtime resident of Paradise Valley School District. My sons both went to Pinnacle High School. The last time I was here, I heard women getting up speaking about what a wonderful teacher Mr. Nanny is. This has been mentioned. I was confused by this, knowing about the Pink Pony Club song that he had admittedly played in his class. I don't normally get up to speak, but there's just too much wrong with this situation, and I just feel like it's gotten swept under the rug, and it really shouldn't be. And you just heard all the rules that were broken, and I think that's the thing that some of us are really quite upset about. He broke the law, plain and simple. I mean, ARS 15-120, which the previous speaker mentioned, .03, it bars schools, your schools, from having any sexual explicit materials or audio. And it clearly says in the song, people are standing in the line to have sex in the bathroom. So how he's gotten away with just a little pat on the hands, a lot of us are really confused by that. So that's the first thing, is that he clearly broke the law. And I spoke to a friend of mine, Alan, that works at one of the district schools here. He's a school music teacher, and he right off the bat, he said, we all know you do not allow any sexually explicit materials in the music class. If there's anything even, he said, I say no to tons of songs. If there's anything even questionable, I have to get it approved. The parents have to approve it. This man went through none of that. He clearly broke the law over and over again, right? So there's that, and he got a slap on the hands. So now maybe he thinks, that went okay. Maybe I could do something else. We don't know the man. He's a new teacher. These women that got up to speak about him don't know him, okay? They don't know his history. The second thing I want to speak about is the bullying that the mother who brought this forth, she just thought she was doing the right thing, has received. There's been a lot said about that already. And yeah, she's putting her child in a private school, and I applaud her for doing that. And she will use the ESAs, according to what I know, and I applaud her for doing that. And all I hear from the public school teachers is the ESAs are horrible, right? We hear that all the time. The ESAs are horrible. They're taking down our schools. They're not. The schools are taking down the schools. The education and the culture that has changed over the last few years is what's taking down these schools. And I want you guys to realize that that's what it is. It's not, the ESAs are just a great benefit for women, mothers who are trying to protect their children and take them to a private school so they don't have to worry about them being bullied. They don't have to worry about sexually explicit content. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it very much.
Jeff Landry, followed by Wendy Mahler. Thank you.
Sorry about the difficult names. So my name is Jeff Landay. I'm the parent of 2 children in PVUSD, and I appreciate the chance to speak before the board and cabinet tonight. And before I say what I'm going to say, I'm going to give the number 8,001 in the last 10 years. Another student gone because of what we're talking about here. From my understanding, a few months ago, a parent of a student at Desert Trails Elementary contacted the school in the district with a strong concern about a sexualized song called the Pink Pony Club, which we've heard of, that was played in the classroom for a group of 6th grade music students. It's also my understanding that the district administration agreed with the parent that the song was highly inappropriate. All of this is concerning, considering that there have been past district run-ins with sexualized content in Paradise Valley District schools. I would like to point out, which has already been done, that this appears to be a violation of some Arizona statutes, which I'm not going to repeat. Unfortunately, like we've heard already, the teacher was given a slap on the wrist because supposedly they didn't intend any wrongdoing, as if intent had any bearing on what the statute says. I'm not sure when we are all going to agree that our tender-aged students need to be safe from these types of things at the schools that us parents entrust them to. Here's my even bigger concern, which you've heard about already. From my understanding, the parent involved has now been a target of ridicule by other parents at the school, online, and so forth. I wonder if any of those targeting this poor mother are the ones who came and spoke on the teacher's behalf. It's fine that he's a great teacher, but what happened was wrong. What's worse, of course, is that the poor 6th grade student has been the target of bullying by other students so badly that, as we've heard, the families removed the student completely from the district and looking at alternative schooling options. Again, 8,001 in 10 years. I don't know the specific policies, but I'm pretty sure our district has anti-bullying and anti-retaliation policies when a student or parent bring up certain concerns. I know the large company that I work for certainly does. This is all very unfortunate considering the continued declining enrollment in Paradise Valley District, and I think it's high time that we start looking inward as a district at what part we play and you all play in stopping the decline and being advocates for parents willing to be involved rather than allowing engaged parents to be silenced and canceled. I think it's time for a turning point. If the parent or student is here tonight or listening, you should know that there are many of us who are like-minded, and though maybe quieter at times in their opposition, there are a lot of us. We are here, we are engaged, and we have your back. Thank you.
Wendy Mahler.
Hello, my name is Wendy Mahler. I am a former student of this district along with my son who is a former graduate. My son, while in this district, encountered 4 different forms of sexual materials, 2 of which I brought to this district. There's something going on. It has to be top down. The culture starts with the leadership. Teachers need to know that they cannot provide sexually explicit material, period. Parents need to be given consent. This was a lapse of judgment to have this Pink Pony song played in a music class. Serious misjudgment, especially at the elementary level. That's even 100 times worse. I don't know what the training is in this district that parents are given, or that teachers are given to not provide this material. They just need to do their due diligence and be careful. That's the bottom line. Secondly, we have heard from other people here today about the bullying going on for people that are bringing things to the attention to the administrator and to this district. That has to stop. How are we going to be a better district and care for our children and their academic performance? You talk about social emotional learning. Well, it starts here, doesn't it? Don't we all want the best for our children and not to be bullied and to hear everyone's voices? I think so. On a positive note, I'm going to end it with this. My son did graduate. He had the experience of having welding class at Paradise Valley High School, and that sparked a great interest in him. And he went on after high school into the adult education in West Meck. He succeeded. He loves it. He's currently a welder, loving it and thriving. So I appreciate that from the Paradise Valley School District. Thank you.
I believe that concludes our calls to the public, which takes us to items for discussion. Next on the agenda is, yes, right? Discussion, well, here, I put my glasses. I-1 Transportation and Belt Alignment Proposal. Dr. Corson.
Thank you, President Pantera. Tonight, we're bringing forward a first reading of the proposed transportation and belt time alignment for the board's consideration. We recognize that changes to school start and end times affect family and students' routines, childcare, work schedules, and student experiences, and we approach this work with care and respect for those impacts. This recommendation is the result of thoughtful committee process. The committee examined the ongoing transportation challenges we face, including persistent driver shortages, late arrivals and drop-offs, and the strain these issues place on students, families, schools, and staff. To support this work, the district also engaged third-party transportation experts from Transpar to analyze our system and provide data-informed insights and recommendations for the committee to consider. Multiple scheduling options were explored, along with the educational, operational, and family impacts, and stakeholder feedback was sought and incorporated. While change is difficult, the committee also recognized the positive implications that better bell time alignment could provide. Greater reliability in transportation, improved predictability for families, reduced instructional disruptions, and more sustainable system overall. This first reading is intended to provide the board with a clear understanding of the problem being addressed, the options considered, and the rationale for the recommendation before any action is contemplated. I'll now turn the presentation over to Mrs. Berrigan, who will present the analysis, proposed changes, and some next steps. Ms. Berrigan.
Thank you, Dr. Corson, President Pantera, and Governing Board. There we go. Do have quite a bit of information for you tonight. I know that it is late, but I do not want to rush through this. This is another very important topic that we are looking into at this point. We did have a study session earlier in this school year and discussed briefly that we'd be looking at transportation and bell time alignment as it related to the findings from Transpar, our third party who provided us with recommendations. And we did convene the committee, and I want to go over some of that work tonight along with some of the data they reviewed, some additional steps taken, and the recommendation that we would be bringing back to the governing board on February 12th. I don't think anybody misunderstands the challenges that we're facing, but just to be incredibly clear and ensure that everybody's on the same page about that, I just want to reiterate all of those pieces. We've had an ongoing bus driver shortage, and that's obviously created some system-wide impacts that extend just beyond transportation in our buses. That shortage is local, it's statewide, and actually even nationwide over the last 5 years. At times, we have operated with as little as 39 of 110 positions that we have on the books filled for drivers, so approximately staffed at 37%. That has a CDL driver shortage. Our bus drivers for our yellow buses have CDLs, and that puts us in competition with the private sector where wages can be increased because they can increase the prices they charge for things. We have sort of an additional complication in that with our shifts, our drivers are on split shifts. They don't just get to work a straight 8 or 10 hours. It's split up between the day while the students are in school. And in this area, within our district, we do have a limited pipeline of those who are interested in filling driver positions. With fewer drivers, that limits the amount of flexibility that we have and minimizes our ability and capacity to absorb when we have absences or even mechanical issues or accidents that sometimes occur with our buses. Additional pieces of the challenge, all of these issues cause sometimes our late pickups and late arrivals. I know that the board, for those of you who've been on, at least in my time here and since then, you will have received emails often, particularly at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. They tend to be the highest from parents who are frustrated with the set of circumstances we find ourselves in with transportation. With those ongoing challenges include late morning arrivals as well as delayed afternoon drop-offs. And that happens in particular when routes are collapsed and drivers are unavailable. And just to reiterate, those impacts include lost instructional time for students who are on the bus. It increases the supervision need for our school site staff who maybe were not thinking that they would need to be staying after school while they were waiting for a bus to arrive. And it disrupts, in particular, our schedules for our families when they're expecting to, and our staff as well, when they're expecting to pick up their student and their student isn't there and they're waiting, or when a student is waiting for a bus to pick them up in the morning and the family doesn't necessarily feel like they can leave their student at the stop, and various issues of that nature that our families struggle with the disruption of their schedules. Additionally, I would just say that the elementary schools are a little bit more disproportionately affected by this because they fall within Tier 2, but mostly within kind of our Tier 3, but our final tier of the day. And so as delays continue to compound, that continues to make the buses later and later. So the challenge we're facing includes operational strain as well. The transportation disruptions also require daily triage by our administrators in terms of who can I get to stay after school today, who's going to make sure the students get to class if they've arrived late. It causes disruptions to our transportation staff and their schedules and expecting them to double and triple their routes, as well as disruptions to the district leadership when having to help communicate any issues and resolve some of those issues. That limited staffing that we talked about earlier also reduces our ability to optimize our routes and quickly resolve issues. And while that situation has improved significantly over the last year, we still don't have the total number of drivers that we need. And while right now we are on the higher end of paying our bus drivers, I suspect it's only a matter of time before what always happens will happen, which is other districts will increase their prices so that they can get staffing back, and we will potentially be in a difficult situation with our staffing again. Other districts have chosen to expand their boundaries, meaning that you have to live further out from your school site in order for us to pick you up for transportation, or eliminated routes. We've chosen not to take those actions, and we must pursue alternative solutions because of that. And I will share, in past years, it has warmed my heart in particular when we've brought that up as a consideration and talked to our transportation department about that, and their belief is, no, we'd rather get every kid to school, even if they're late, than not have them to school at all because they don't have transportation. So why transportation matters? It's an educational and community impact, and those challenges ripple across our entire district. Almost all of our schools have transportation. There is an impact on student learning with missed instructional minutes when there are late arrivals. It also impacts the entire classroom, even the students who were not brought by a yellow bus to school, because the students coming in from the buses can disrupt that entire classroom. It can sometimes reduce access to the early breakfast programs that we provide at our campus, as well as before school academic support and other enrichment and intervention opportunities. As I mentioned before, that inconsistent transportation tends to affect our younger or elementary students, but also our students with special needs. We do door-to-door pickup for our students with special needs. It does take a little bit longer to load some of our students with special needs as well, and so this impacts them a little bit more significantly. The additional reasons for why transportation matters is our impact on our families and our staff. Our families experience missed work time. We often get that comments within the emails and communications that we receive. It provides childcare challenges for them when they can't depend on a bus to arrive on time. It also increases stress and unpredictability for our families as well. And then our school staff end up adding and absorbing additional responsibilities. That includes supervising students in the afternoon who are waiting for buses, managing parent concerns certainly as well, and adjusting instruction on short notice when there are disruptions or late arrivals to the classroom. So moving from the challenge to a solution that needs to be a system-level solution, and our transportation challenges cannot be solved in isolation. I want to be super clear that the core issue is not an effort on the part, or excuse me, a lack of effort on the part or commitment of any of our staff. Our transportation staff, our school leaders and staff, and our drivers are already operating at maximum capacity and then some. I don't believe that there is anything else that we can expect them to do. While we solve the problems on a daily basis and have done so for a number of years, that just addresses the symptoms, but it doesn't resolve the structural issue that we have. Our bell times directly affect our transportation capacity, and so we have the staggered start and end times. And paired with intervals in between those tiers, that helps us determine how many routes a driver can complete, how many tiers the district can operate, as well as the district's ability to absorb any absences or delays or mechanical issues. And our current bell configuration severely restricts that routing flexibility and causes delays. We talked a little bit about that in the study session, but I'll reiterate the reason why that is in a few slides. In terms of the continued system-level solution, if we have better alignment with our bell times, it can increase our efficiency without increasing staffing, and obviously increasing staffing has an increased cost related to it. Better alignment can also reduce our late pickups and arrivals significantly. It can improve our scheduling flexibility for our families, or excuse me, predictability for our families and our schools, and also create greater reliability for our athletics, our after-school programs, and our early breakfast access. So while not every student is brought to or from school on a bus, sometimes they rely on transportation for athletics, after school, early breakfast. I would add to that list field trips as well. I want to share, this is about stability for families and staff, and it's not just simply the earlier and later start times. It's more reliable and a more sustainable transportation system to ensure student safety that supports learning. So, as we shared, we convened a committee, and I want to thank from the bottom of my heart all of the people who attended 4 and what became 5 transportation meetings related to this. This was co-facilitated with Dr. Corson and I before he was doing 2 jobs. He committed to that with me, and I appreciate his work with me on this because then he did have 2 jobs while we were working on this. So thank you, Dr. Corson. These people came fully committed and prepared and reviewed the documents ahead of time before each of the meetings, as well as spent time in the meetings. They thoughtfully sent questions and added information to joint documents that we had. And, there was a great amount of time, thought, and effort that they put into their thoughts. And we originally had scheduled 4 meetings. They felt that we needed a 5th meeting. Or maybe agreed with me that we needed a 5th meeting, and appreciate that additional meeting being fit into their schedule. And we will hear from one of the committee members in a few slides, along with Heather Schmidt, president of PVEA, for some additional feedback that we received. To reiterate the purpose of that committee, it was to recommend to Cabinet school start time adjustments that improve our transportation efficiency while supporting instructional goals and community needs. As mentioned, we had these 5 meetings, and these were the times. I would say I don't think there was a single meeting that ended on time. They didn't go super late. We certainly try to be respectful of everybody's time, but not one person, left early. They felt committed to ensuring that we were able to complete the conversations that we were having. And while this isn't probably the most exciting committee to be on, and it was a difficult committee to be on, they were all very committed to the purpose and ensuring a positive solution. This is one of the slides taken directly from one of our presentations in the committee around decision-making, that we make recommendations to the superintendent's cabinet and that we strive for consensus in our decision-making. This additionally was a document we shared with each meeting, and you can see the meeting that goes across the top, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then along the side, all of the stakeholders within cabinet committee meetings, stakeholder communication, and pathway outcomes, and ensuring that we had a plan and a map for our intentions, our purpose, our results, our process, and our relationships. This is a culmination of all of the agendas. We started with a presentation of the current state of transportation. It was the same presentation that the board received earlier this school year from Transpar. They received that data and the recommendations from Transpar for a minimum of 45 minutes and ideally a 60-minute difference between tier times. Then the committee started to work on the generation of options, reviewing the options, the details of those options, the impact of those options, whether they were positive, neutral, or negative. And then we looked to request some additional stakeholder feedback, and that was part of why we had that 5th meeting, so that after that stakeholder feedback was requested, that the committee had time to review that additional feedback. A final proposal was made in that final meeting. We reached consensus, and then we closed out the meeting by what we call the plus deltas, so the positives of the committee work and the delta of the committee work. Whenever we have a committee in this district, our hope is that they enjoyed the time on the committee and felt that their voice on the committee was heard and valued. And so we take time to do a plus delta to receive that feedback, and I'll share what the committee shared during that part of the agenda. Moving into understanding our current schedule, and we talked about this a little bit in the study session as well. Our district currently operates on the tiered bell schedule system, as many school districts, if not most school districts, do. The different start times do optimize our transportation and resource allocations. Our schools currently are assigned really to 5 different tiers. There are 3 main tiers, but sort of 2 sub-tiers that total up to 5 tiers. Our high schools do start the earliest, and our specialized programs start the latest. Here with the 6 high schools, because each of these, the 6 high schools, 7 middle schools, 28 elementary schools, they're those numbers because they each include their portion of the Roadrunner students. Of our typical schools, it's the 5 high schools, 6 middle schools, and 27 elementary schools. All 5 of our high schools are 7:30 a.m. to 2:10 p.m., with Roadrunner being 7:15 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Our middle schools, 4 of them are at 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. to 2:40 p.m., and then 2 of them are 9 a.m. to 3:40 p.m. As we shared in the study session, the goal is to also get the middle schools all on the same tier as well. And then with our elementary schools, we have 8 that are the 8:15 to 2:45 and 19 that are 8:45 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. The considerations over the many scheduling options for the different bell time approaches that were made, the final recommendation was selected based on the best balance of a few things. That's the educational needs, our transportation logistics, our family schedules, and our operational efficiency. The option of making no changes to bell schedules was considered with the committee. Though they do understand that some changes between schools to different tiers will need to happen regardless of whether or not bell times changed. They did feel as though making no changes was not the right solution at this point in time. Additionally, we recognized as a committee that no option, including our current option, is perfect, unfortunately. A summary of the recommended changes is that the committee came to the 50-minute AM buffer and 50-minute PM buffer. Additionally, it brings the middle schools all together, as I mentioned, in Tier 2, and then it adds 10 minutes to the elementary school day. And that is because currently high schools and middle schools have a 6-hour and 40-minute day, and elementary schools have a 6-hour and 30-minute day. So the key changes in summary for the recommended change is to keep our high schools at Tier 1 with some slight time adjustments, consolidate the 6 middle schools into Tier 2. Our elementary schools do experience some changes and some shifting between Tiers 2 and 3. And then, as I mentioned, even without bell time changes, tier adjustments will be needed for next year to capture at least some efficiencies in transportation. With our high schools, the adjustment is 10 minutes earlier. It maintains the 6-hour and 40-minute day. Our middle schools, as mentioned, are all consolidated into Tier 2, maintains their 6-hour and 40-minute day. With our elementary schools, we would have 2 of the schools moving from Tier 2 to Tier 3, and in particular with this elementary section, we're not finalized on which schools will be in which tier yet, so that's why we're keeping it to summary information at this point in time. 3 schools are moving from Tier 3 to Tier 2, 17 would remain in Tier 3, 6 would remain in Tier 2, that includes Pinnacle Peak Prep, counting them in the elementary school area, and that would move their day to 6 hours and 40 minutes to align with the high schools and the middle schools. In terms of what that would look like for time, the high schools, Roadrunner would have no change. It would be the 7:15 to 1:30. The 5 high schools would change to 7:20 to 2 p.m., so they would start 10 minutes earlier. Middle schools would move to Tier 2, so their start time would move to 8:10 a.m. to 2:50 p.m., and that's either from the 8 a.m. start time or the 9 a.m. start time for the 2 schools who are currently in Tier 3. For elementary schools, we have Tier 2 would move from starting at 8:15 a.m. to now start at 8:10 a.m. With the additional 10 minutes, that means that they would end at 2:50 p.m. And then Tier 3, instead of starting at 8:45 a.m., would move to 9 a.m. And with the additional 10 minutes, the day would end at 3:40 p.m. We additionally have to consider the impact to half-days. Another unique piece to this was that high schools and middle schools had 4 hours on the current half-day schedule, and elementary schools had only 3 hours and 45 minutes, so we wanted to align that to be consistent too, so that we could have 3 true tier times. And so you see what those proposed schedules would look like for the high schools, middle schools, and the 2 tiers of the elementary schools. Just to provide a quick summary of the impact, the transportation portion of this is to optimize our bus routing through our tiered schedules and having different buffer times or extended buffer times between tiers to help positively affect our route efficiency and driver schedules. In terms of family schedules, obviously this creates different impacts on drop-off and pickup times and all of the things related to that. We recognize that for some families, it may have a negative impact, or simply a change, or for some families, certainly it might have a positive impact. In terms of instructional time, the recommendation, as mentioned, adds 10 minutes to the elementary school day, as well as maintain consistent high school and middle school instructional minutes. In all of this, acknowledging our family and staff concerns is an important consideration, and we recognize that any change to start and end times does have an impact on our families and our staff. That includes childcare and work schedule, as well as after school or even before school activities. As we continue to evaluate this, we are fine-tuning the additional pieces including special education, preschool, high school 0 hour, which is super early, our community education impacts, Sun Kids field trips, and half days. We want to ensure coordination and minimize disruption as best as possible. We also know that clear communication and an advance notice, which is why we're bringing it this early on, is a priority so our families have sufficient time to plan for the coming year. And now I will move into focus group feedback, and we start with our certified group. Ms. Heather Schmidt will make her way to the front, and Dr. Corson and I thought it would be helpful to hear directly from Heather. She and I, as well as Dr. Holmes, met with a group of elementary certified staff to discuss with them in particular the additional 10 minutes. That's the particular feedback that the committee wanted. And so there are some things that were discussed, and I will let Ms. Schmidt talk about those and round out anything else. Thank you.
Good evening again, President Pantera, Governing Board. Thank you, Mrs. Berrigan. First of all, thank you again to Mrs. Berrigan and Dr. Holmes for including us and making sure that we have been part of this conversation from the get-go. I just want to give a little timeline addition. The committee was called back in September, and the first meeting was September 24th. I was able to, as part of our PVEA process, we meet monthly with the representatives from all schools, and updates were provided to the Council of Representatives in October and November, specifically on the work that had been done in this committee thus far. Following the November meeting, which was right around the time of, I think, the 4th committee meeting, I don't have the graphic in front of me, and the time has lost all meaning this month. So following that 4th meeting, there was an interest in, that's kind of where the 10-minute thing came up, and Mrs. Berrigan and Dr. Holmes came to me, and we got with an urge to get feedback directly from teachers on the impact of the 10 additional minutes in the elementary school day. So I was able to use that network and pulled a group, a small but fabulous group of elementary educators together to specifically discuss the 10 extra minutes. And we met and had a very thorough conversation, a lot of this is the discussion that we had. I don't want to read slides to you, but you know, the group as educators, we have a million ideas, and they are people who love throwing all ideas at the wall. So some ideas that the first person who gave me feedback was, well, can we have 10 more minutes of lunch or prep? And we moved on from that because we want everyone to have preps and lunches that are of equal length. Our elementary friends, I love you guys, but they don't need 10 more minutes than anyone else. There was also conversations around where that time would go, and we've had a lot of conversations. I also had our January Council of Representatives meetings last night, where this information has been out to the staff, and we had a more broad discussion. We spent almost an hour last night discussing this. So we talked about big picture is where that 10 minutes will go and what that will mean. And our focus is on adding that to the instructional day and making sure that that is benefiting those students that are in those classrooms. So every school, elementary schools, they develop their own master schedules. They all look a little bit different, but there are obviously key things that are similar or same from school to school. Some schools have specials kind of scheduled a little bit differently, where they have a little bit of a window of time between their, as they transition between grade levels. Sometimes specials start, the school might start at 8:45, but they don't go to specials till 9 o'clock. So that 15 minutes at the beginning and the end of the day, things like that. Pushing very hard for our teachers to work at the school level with their administrators to ensure that this 10 minutes is put into the master schedule in a way that benefits the school. And, you know, we have a lens always of the school, by the local decision being made at the school site of what one school needs may not be the same as the others. A big piece also is that when, I'm not going to guess on the date, but a few years ago when we added the second recess for our K-5 students, that is 10 to 15 minutes of instructional time that was actually lost. So that was an exciting piece for some of our people that were in both the focus group and in conversations we've had since the focus group met at the very beginning of December, on that 10 minutes being able to be used for additional instructional time. The other side of this is our certified employees work, we have a duty-free day, as we call it. They currently work bell to bell. And when buses are late at the end of the day, they are often asked to stay after and support students and make sure that they are supervised and kept safe after school and compensated at our duty rate to do that work. But there's very much excitement, I think, amongst almost all of us about the piece of transportation improving. We've seen, I think, some amazing improvements this year alone with getting and I will not take Mr. Webster's thunder about transportation, but we've seen positive movement on timeliness of transportation this year, but we can always make that better, and I believe that this is a piece there. For some of our schools that are moving to that more 9 o'clock start time, a lot of our schools have after the bell programming. There's also, we asked if there was an opportunity to do more before the bell, so have more enrichment type classes before school as well. Potential opportunity for transition time to be built in. Ultimately, and I am grateful to see yet again that focus on the communication and clarity for all of us. That is the most important piece, both for our families, of course, but for staff in understanding what their lives will look like for next school year. Some of these changes are big, and we love the fact that we can get this answer as soon as possible so people can plan ahead for next school year as they're registering for before and after care, things like that. I will be here through the remainder of the presentation if I am needed again. Thank you all.
Thank you, Heather. The only thing that I will add to that is in that meeting, I was reminded of that instructional time. I had forgotten about that. That was lost when the state mandated an additional recess period. And the feeling in the room around that was that they were excited about the idea of being able to recapture some of that instructional time, which I thought was very positive. The next focus group that we spoke with was our elementary school principals. Some of the thoughts they had were around the 10 minutes and working that into the master schedule, which is some of what we heard from the certified group as well. That this would support reducing the student wait time, that their time would be spent partially, at least in instruction, along with the addition to the time between tiers, providing the need to not have to have that amount of wait time. It would also support the supervision that the staff have needed to provide, that Ms. Schmidt just talked about as well, in terms of having after-school coverage. That would no longer be necessary or be rarely necessary with the change to the 50 minutes between tiers. They noted that the breakfast location does affect some of the supervision, whether or not they have breakfast in the classroom, for example. And so wanting to make sure that we work through those pieces as well. Additionally, their special education staffing and break times would be impacted. They want to ensure that that is thought through. And they did have some concerns about the 9 a.m. start time impacting the potential for after-school meetings. We do, as you saw, have 2 middle schools who have a 9 a.m. start time right now. And so talked with Mr. Clancy about how that often works at his campus. And he said that most of the school site meetings are done in the morning. But there are sometimes meetings like IEPs where you need parents to be there for that, and after school tends to be more convenient, and wanting to ensure that our teachers would be there. And he says he doesn't have a problem getting teachers in for any of those types of meetings for IEPs, so I think that that will work out well. These were all just thoughts that they wanted to bring forward. When we seek feedback from focus groups, from committees, the purpose is to ensure that we're recognizing and paying attention to any of the speed bumps that we may hit along the way. Whenever we're presenting something like this and making significant changes in a district, we want to make sure that I don't know what all of those pieces are. Dr. Corson doesn't know what all of those pieces are. We want to ensure that we're talking to the people that it impacts and making sure that we are considering those things and determining whether or not, first of all, they're surmountable or not. And in all of the feedback we received, there was nothing that they felt was insurmountable, just making sure that we process through each of these pieces and provide support throughout. The next piece is our transportation department feedback. He's ready to go. I see him back there. Mr. Sean Webster is going to make his way forward. This was also an incredibly important focus group feedback that we sought, This was a much larger focus group feedback. I believe the entire transportation department was invited.
The entire transportation department was invited. There were a few doing midday routes or field trips, but I would say we probably had 95% of them there, so just about all of them. When we brought the options to them, they were all, you could see a sigh of relief when they heard more time, which we don't get a lot in transportation, that they all agree on something. So it was really exciting. They were all very excited, and they said the stress level, because if you've ever been at a school on the second day of school in August while they're still trying to learn everyone, with 45 kids outside with people who have been all day and it's hot, and then they're trying to figure out what route they have, and sometimes they're doubling, they were all really excited to know that that may not be an issue, and it might just be a little bit of a, we're 5 minutes late instead of 45. So they were all really, really excited about having that before and after the school day. As well as our special ed drivers, we're really thankful, because you may have a bus of 15 special ed kids that a normal transit bus can load in 2 minutes, but some of those kids you have to take one by one, buckle them in, get them in a harness, and so that can take, if they don't have an aide, it can be a long process. So they were appreciative that there may be some more time to go a little slower and kind of walk with that kid, and if they're having an off day, as some of our students do, that they might be able to kind of reassure them a little bit more and have time to get them on the bus and then continue their route. They appreciate that they would be more efficient, so that they wouldn't be doing 2, 3 routes on one bus, because this would help to stretch out the alignment from Tier 1 to Tier 3. As well as they did not like the idea of having 4 tiers. They felt that that would kind of recompress and give us some more issues that we're currently facing. So they were all in favor of the 3-tier option, and we got a standing or not standing, they all sat, because it was their holiday lunch or breakfast, but they gave us a huge round of applause for this, and they were all very, very excited and happy that this was something that is being considered and brought forward. That's all I have. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. And he will also be here through the end of the presentation, correct? Okay, excellent. Okay. And another incredibly important component in this is the parent focus group, and we also received some feedback from them. Again, the tenor of all of that feedback was that none of it is insurmountable, but they want to make sure that we are considering all of these things. They understood and supported the need for a more long-term solution that was structural in nature, and that the short-term fixes, those are no longer sufficient. They did raise some concerns about the impact on some specific programs, including elementary field trips, half-day schedules, special education afternoon therapies, preschool, Sun Kids, and community education programs. And all of these we have either addressed or will be addressed, either the start and end times. They're in alignment with the way that we currently do them, just moved according to whatever school or location they may be at. Elementary field trips, we don't believe will have a significant impact because we have more time and can make our routes more efficiently. We should have the same amount of time to be able to do field trips. So just working through some of those things they wanted to ensure. Additionally, our families with students in specialized program, in particular special education and autism programs, parents just wanted to emphasize the importance of coordinating those dismissal times so that they have sufficient time to receive whatever additional therapies they may need to support them. They did have some questions about the high school start times. You know, a lot of the focus had been on elementary, but certainly the additional 10 minutes to high school start times with students being starting that early, sharing research on later start times, but then the parents recognized that making high school start times later, either in the second tier or third tier, would prevent participation in some after-school activities, namely in AIA athletics. So school districts across the county and even across the state almost always have their high school start times the earliest in order to be able to participate in AIA with the start times as early as 3 o'clock for some athletic programs. There was some discussion about shortening the high school day. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We have a minimum number of instructional minutes we have to meet, and we're pretty close to that for our high schools. And perhaps the most important component of this was their emphasis on the clear communication and allowing time for families to plan, and we will certainly do that. Understanding if changes aren't made, what may need to happen instead, or what else might occur, I think is important in the decision-making process. There are a few impacts, starting with a financial or a staffing impact, and it would be that we would need to, if we don't change bell times, one of the options would be to significantly increase the driver staffing that we have. That would obviously have ongoing higher transportation costs for additional drivers and routes, the potential for increased overtime, or the use of contracted services, which is quite a bit more expensive. Would say to all of that, just because we post more driver positions doesn't mean that we'll get more drivers. We already have driver positions posted, and we still are not fully staffed. And with contracted services, they come to a limit too, and there have been times where they have said, even under current circumstances, let alone expanding the number of routes or drivers that we would have, they've not been able to meet our needs and provide the contracted driving services. The other option is reduced service reliability, and this middle option here is effectively where we're at now. We don't have a lot of reliability, particularly in our second and even more so in our third tiered schools. They've continued late arrivals and more particularly the delayed drop-offs in the afternoon. And that obviously incurs loss and disruption of instructional time, along with all of the other things we've talked about in terms of disruption to family schedules and things of that nature. And then the other option, like I talked about a little bit, that some other school districts have considered and made those changes, is reduced offerings for transportation. That means expanding the transportation boundaries beyond what they are now. So you'd have to live further away from the school in order to be able to receive transportation. That would also include canceling stops or routes and potentially eliminating additional offerings or reducing additional offerings like field trips, athletics, fine arts, and midday routes. So trying to look at financial impact, because as a governing board, part of your responsibility is obviously the financial solvency of the school district, and so wanting to provide you with this important information as well. There are some projected costs, some projected savings, and then sort of the delta of those. With the projected savings, a very conservative estimate is a saving of $120,000 for the after-school supervision right now that is happening. That number is likely closer to double that. It will also save on the private transportation costs that we've incurred. Again, this is a very conservative number, a minimum of $387,000 of savings for private transportation. In terms of potential costs, because we are adding 10 minutes to the elementary school instructional day, we would need to compensate our hourly staff for an additional 15 minutes for those who aren't full-time, who aren't an 8-hour day. And that is probably the most accurate cost estimate. That's very easy to estimate at about $410,000. So the delta of all those numbers, again, a very conservative estimated savings of $97,000. It's not the primary reason, or not even necessarily a secondary reason that we're doing this, but we certainly didn't want it to cost the district a significant amount of money in proposing a change like this. And so this takes care of that consideration. In terms of the steps for decision making, we have had our communication with the stakeholder groups, the reach outs that we did with each of those, and presented the work of the committee and the recommendation. Some communication with staff regarding that recommendation has occurred, and I'm forgetting if that was last week or this week, Dr. Holmes. This week. Thank you, Ms. Topol. With communication to staff related to that, though, as Heather had mentioned, there's been some communication to Council of Reps and other groups during that time as well. The next piece is obviously this presentation that's happening right now to the governing board with the cabinet recommendation and agreement with the work of the committee. We will also be doing some additional surveying to our families to seek some broader feedback. We have that survey ready to go. Marcom has supported that, and I believe that will be going out tomorrow afternoon, early afternoon timeframe. So we should have that feedback for the February 12th governing board meeting. The final information and recommendation for the board will be made at that meeting. And then implementation planning, sort of seems like that would happen after that, but obviously those are things we're already thinking about. We don't certainly expect that this is a done deal, but in people who are in operations to wait until something's happening, we generally don't do that. We try to plan and prepare for that as best ahead of time. As I had mentioned, we do the plus delta of a committee work to ensure that it was a positive and rewarding experience for the committee members who attended and participated. And so this was the feedback that we received, and I thought it was important for the board to hear some of this. They liked the conversations to get focus group feedback. That was particularly important to them. They valued, we had various documents that I had mentioned throughout that captured committee feedback and provided them information before, during, and after the meeting so that when they had thoughts, they didn't have to wait for the next committee meeting to provide those thoughts. They had the opportunity to share those thoughts throughout that time, and we would come back to that during each meeting. They appreciated the meeting organization and having the materials ahead of time. I'm going to thank Dr. Corson for doing 99.9% of that work. They appreciated the district including parents on the committee. I think the parents in particular felt appreciated for that. I don't know of a committee that we do in the district that doesn't include parents or doesn't include all stakeholders. That's always incredibly important as they are a very important stakeholder. They thought that it was a very well-rounded group. They believed that the conversations within the committee were great, that good data and good information was provided to them to help them make an informed decision. We had someone in there who say this was one of the best committees they were on in 20 years of being on committees in the district. That was Ms. Topol. And they were grateful that the transportation challenges are being addressed, and in the words that they used was in an amazing manner. So just to sort of round this out, why this problem requires a solution. If it's not clear already, I'm going to just hit it home one more time. It's not just an operational issue. It is a foundational issue in the school district. And reliable transportation supports our instructional time. It supports student safety when you consider sometimes that students are waiting out. In particular right now, it's still dark outside when we have some students waiting for a bus to pick them up. It supports family trust that is incredibly important to the school district, as well as staff sustainability when they're constantly being asked to change their schedule for the day and support after school and whatnot. That becomes a little bit exhausting to them at some point. It addresses our transportation challenges and enables us to use our resources better, as well as provide an improved staff and student experience. While there are other levers that I talked about in terms of expanding route boundaries or adding staffing or the other pieces we mentioned, the bell time alignment lever is the piece that allows us to make the best use of our limited resources while providing reliability for our students, our families, and our staff. But it doesn't require additional staffing or increased costs or reduced services. And therefore, we believe it is the best lever to use at this point in time. I know that was a lot of information. I am happy to. One thing, I keep forgetting to mention this when I see my different points on the slide. There has been, I just want to make sure we're clear, there's been consideration about community education offerings and paying attention to the schools in particular with the changes from Tier 2 to Tier 3 or Tier 3 to Tier 2 and offering additional community education, or if they aren't a community education school or not necessarily a school that would participate in that, other offerings through grants such as Heather mentioned, before the bell or after the bell. So sorry for not remembering that thought. There was a lot in here. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, thank you for that very thorough presentation. Talking about a lot of work and the butterfly effect. One thing affects another thing,
Absolutely.
affects another thing. I think it's fantastic. So who would like to go first? Mrs. Christensen.
Thank you, President Pantera, and thank you, Mrs. Bergen and committee for the thorough work. Wow, it's very complicated, and thank you for all your, and the additional work that you put in with the other days. I found answer to one of my questions in the presentation as you were going through, but I'll just go through them as I wrote them down. Elementary school, so increasing 10 minutes. So I'm assuming since elementary schools have homeroom classes, it would be the 10 minutes additional instruction to a homeroom class? Is that, because I know they have specials and they have other, or is it going to be spread out? Because that's really not a lot of instruction if you spread it out with all the classes.
Right, so that decision has not been made.
Okay.
And is not part of the recommendation. We, of course, would be engaging our constituencies at the site level to do that, and we have a process for doing that in place. And so that would be a stakeholder discussion at the site level.
While you had indicated that teachers would love to have 10 more minutes of lunch planning, it would also benefit students to have 10 more minutes of recess. Was that discussed also by the committee? Because I remember when my kid was in elementary school and he wouldn't eat, and he'd bring back the same lunch that I would send because he wanted to play and run or play flag football or whatever. Was that discussed by the committee at all to
Well,
maybe
the discussions that
yeah.
I was specifically involved with the focus group, certified focus group, was that they had increased recess time several years ago. And so this was seen as an opportunity to recapture some of that instructional time that was lost back then, which, of course, in this day and age, with as much conversation as we have about test scores in instructional time, that was an important consideration.
Okay, yeah, that's a complicated one because it's a balance, and those young minds also need a break, and they need to run around, especially our squirrely boys. They need to run around and play and do all that. It's hard to sit that long in a classroom.
But I would want to emphasize that will go back and be part of a stakeholder discussion at the site level.
Great, thank you. And then the high schools, I still have a hard time even increasing the start times to 10 minutes, 7:20, because our high schoolers, they work, they have late night jobs sometimes, there's band, orchestra, athletics. So one of the questions was addressed that it would make it difficult for AIA, because I didn't think about that until you brought it up in the parent focus group, that it's not just athletics within the district, we're having to coordinate with the other schools, but and the other consideration is juniors and seniors drive, and so I was thinking that it would be easy just to put them nothing's easy, that's very complicated, but to do actually a later start for the high school, just because they need more sleep, and it's kind of, Was that considered at all?
Yeah, that was
start?
actually probably more of the first few meetings talking point, because as we sort of ended, it became a little bit more on the elementary focus, but we started off with a little bit of the high school focus, and we did have high school representation in the room, and there were earlier times discussed, and that was true, that was a no-go. And even this one, right, we recognize that 10 minutes is 10 minutes. But it was part of the information that was asked for in the committee about tardies, first period tardies, in particular for high schools. So it was a great question. We pulled that information. I was shocked when I pulled it, and then I had to remember how I framed the question, because I thought the number I got back was the percent of students that were tardy every day. and that number was 54%. So that was very surprising to me. That is not what we asked for. We asked for the total number of students who had been tardy. So even if they were tardy, or total percent of students who were tardy. So even if they'd been tardy once, they were counted in that 54%. And the conclusion that the committee came to about that is the students are already late, they're likely going to be late, and not necessarily any later if the start time is 7:20 versus 7:30, but it's certainly a consideration.
Okay, I know it's late. This is
what-
my last question, I
No.
promise. For the high schoolers, did you consider changing all the high schoolers to a block schedule? I know I've had conversations with Dr. Dennis in the past, and he just raves about PV's block schedule. I know it's different because they have longer classes they're needing for those specialized,
Yes.
CREST programs, but.
We did not talk about that in the committee. I don't know that everybody in the district would understand this, but having a block schedule does actually cost the district more money. So I don't think we were not trying to do anything that would cost the district any additional money, but it wasn't brought forward, and I think maybe that was because people understood that that might be the impact of that. Thank you.
Mrs. Wanning?
Thank you. I want to start by saying thank you to the committee. I know obviously a ton of energy and work went into it. That is not lost on me. So I want to start there. Also, just a huge shout out to transportation. You all are amazing humans, and I have such an appreciation for keeping our kids safe and doing everything that you do day in and day out. That is a tough job. I have a lot, I'm gonna be honest, I'm like really not happy with this. And I'm really unhappy about the impact on high school students. We're going in the wrong direction. Like, I don't know that I'm gonna be able, just gonna be totally transparent, like in getting behind an earlier start time for high school, period. I understand this is complicated. I understand there's no easy solution. I understand it's going to be felt somewhere. But if we're hearing already, and one of my questions was about data and absenteeism, and I would love to have had that be part of this, because I feel like I have tremendous concerns already about tardiness and absenteeism for our high school students. And so without even sort of having that information as a baseline, it makes it really difficult to even consider something like this, as well as not having any information about, well, what kinds of supports or interventions or things what are we doing to try to mitigate if we have 54%, and I hear your point, like that could be one tardy, that could be right. Are we differentiating between excused, not excused? Are we looking at all of those things? Because I worry that in trying to sort of solve a very real problem that impacts all students, because I do understand that it's impacting everyone, regardless of whether they're a bus rider or not. That said, are we potentially exacerbating another problem, which is instructional time and tardiness for our high school students? And to me, we're already not, from my perspective, not doing enough, or if we are, I certainly don't have that information, and I haven't seen it. So I'm so concerned about that. We talk about sports and AIA and all of that. Other districts, and maybe it's because they're making some of those other hard decisions. I didn't do like some comprehensive search, but I researched. Doesn't seem like anybody has an earlier start time than 7:30. And in fact, most high schools in this area and in Phoenix have later start times than we do. So I think there's got to be another way to do this. And if we are going to really be tasked with making this decision, that I think a few of us expressed at the last study session, our reservations around the high school start time, I really would like to see that data, and I would really want to know, what are we doing to help support those students? I don't see high school principal representation on the committee. I'm sure that feedback was gotten from them.
There was.
I'm right, I'm certain that that's true, but I also have concerns about what sort of, like how broad, and I appreciate there's more feedback coming, right? But I would have liked to hear more from parents and community feedback. And another concern that I have is kind of similar to the concern that I think a few of us raised, and I know I raised with regard to the community ed, which is I don't think this is enough time to give families. I would prefer, if at all possible, that if we're going to make a change to bell times that's going to impact literally all of our entire community, that we give families an entire year to make that decision, to actually vet. And we've had families already that are open enrolled and they've made that decision and they're making that decision right now. And so they should have this information. I think we risk losing students for sure with an earlier start time. And I want to just also clarify, so is it correct, because I feel, maybe it's me and I'm tired and it's late, but I find this very confusing. 19 elementary schools then, am I correct, will be moved to a 9 a.m. to 3:40, and 9 would be on the tier 2, which is the 8:10 to 2:50, is that correct?
I'll get the slide back up.
Okay, because I was trying to add it together to figure out where we land with moving those times. So 9 a.m. to 3:40 for 19 schools. We don't know which schools they would be. I hear you that you're going to look at how this impacts special education students, but 19 schools basically not ending their day until almost 4 o'clock. Like, again, I would like to have that information now for us to sort of consider and for those families to be talked to. And are you looking at like the structured programs at the schools and considering which schools would be in which tier, right? And which populations are going to be less impacted by a change like that? So, and again, I do appreciate that this is hard and there's no perfect solution, and nobody wants to hear about students being late, and nobody, right? And then this opens up a whole other, I think, conversation, which maybe you all are having that, I'm not privy to, or we're not privy to, but, are there other things that could be part of this broader conversation? And maybe it's not a fix-all, and maybe moving to this bell schedule is the move no matter what school closures happen, no matter, what reboundaries could potentially happen. But it would be nice to have that bigger conversation and look at all of that as, instead of like, it feels like this is sort of happening in like, kind of like this isolated silo. Or maybe you all are having that conversation, but it's not being presented to us that way. So it makes it really difficult to think about what even like collateral, damage are we creating, and are there other things we could be looking at? So I guess my biggest issue is, again, maybe you all are looking at that data. It would be really helpful for us to know more information about high schools, more information from the just parents and the community. And I also, how many of our high school students are involved in before school practices that now are going to have to get up at God knows what time for track or hockey or whatever it is that they're participating in. These are things that I would like to know, because I think that that's really going to impact those kids. And then does that result in, right, increased absenteeism, kids getting sick? I mean, there's just a whole slew of issues that I feel like the burden is really shifting on high school.
Any other comments, questions? Dr. Lim?
My mic's on. So I'll go ahead and follow up one of Ms. Wani's comments of the question. So I think my question and comment is, why are we not strategically coupling these changes with things like boundary adjustments, given we know some of our school boundaries are currently not ideal, given those schools were built and those boundaries were structured in a way for the building, but the building has and structure out, especially past the 101, has changed. So why are we not coupling some of those changes simultaneously, that we're able to communicate not only that there's going to be a bell time change, but there also may be a change to whether they're open or non-open enrollment in that area. So I know this is a larger conversation, and I feel like I'm worried that I don't have the information of what is our long-term plan. It feels like we're like, let's just attack this little thing and not think big picture, but making this change will anger parents even if it has the best intention, and then making other changes down the road will again anger parents. And it feels like we're just going to keep angering parents by changing things about our pickup times or our routes or all of these different things. And why can't we do a simultaneous change at the same time, so that we're communicating not only are you changing whether you're open enrollment, but also your bell time has changed, or that these things are happening simultaneously, so we get cohesive communication that is not just 3 months of communication, because let's be honest, we only had 3 months to communicate with them, because by May, we're not communicating with parents. Be honest, I don't check my school emails. Like my communication goes down in the summer, And so we're got to capture parents before they leave in May for a change that's happening at the beginning of the year. And that feels like too short of a window to do that, especially when we could be looking more long-term at substantial changes that have the most bang for our buck and may actually also save us money in that process and increase that savings that we're doing by making these other incremental changes together at the same time. So it's my comment / question as to why we're not looking bigger picture here.
So closing schools and bell time changes being done simultaneously are sort of,
So I don't think I'm talking closing schools. I think I'm saying looking at our boundaries as they exist to make sure that these are the most ideal boundaries for our schools.
right, which,
Without a closure.
well, so the boundary changes tend to come with school closures. And as we've talked about, as I've shared in previous meetings, we do need to look at school closures again, and other board members have made statements related to that. At this point in time, those school closures would not likely happen until the 27-28 school year. So we'd be an additional year out before making any additional transportation efficiencies. And we felt it was important that it was now the time to start to make some transportation efficiencies. Additionally, when we close schools and reboundary at the same time, it doesn't change, it changes the way a route may look, it changes maybe who might pick up the stop, but when we closed schools last time, it did not change necessarily the number of routes that we had, it just sort of changed who was transported and where they were transported to. So they are obviously related as it relates to the overall structure within a school district, but they don't necessarily need to be paired together.
I guess my question is, why are we not looking at it to make sure that it doesn't need to be done? Like, either you've done the assessment and you can tell me there's no need to change boundaries, or we have not done the assessment and there aren't other cost savings elsewhere. Like, it feels like if we're going to do one change, why do we not do multiple changes? If you have the data to show that this change is not necessary, then I'm happy to support moving forward if we have all the data, but it feels like I'm given a small piece and told to ignore this other thing, and you're not actually answering my question because I'm not asking about school closures. I'm asking, have we assessed that our boundaries are ideal regardless of school closures? And if they aren't, then why are we not making those adjustments? Or do we have that information that each school is feeding the best way into each school that surrounds it, and are we boundaried correctly?
So when we last closed schools, we looked at all of our boundaries and made additional boundary adjustments in addition to school closures. And that was just a couple of years ago.
To just our schools surrounding those closing schools, or to all of our boundaries?
There were some that were additional recommendations beyond schools that were closed as well.
Anyone else have any comments? Mrs. Greenberg?
I want to thank the committee again, and this is a lot of work. We all know it's a lot of work, and it's something that we obviously need to do. It's really late, and I'm probably not going to be massively coherent here, but I'll try. I agree with some of my colleagues. I'm concerned about moving the high school start time, too. It's like, all the research says later, so it feels like we're going against the research grain there. I know it's been a while, but when my oldest was in high school, we were at we just hit the point where he could take the bus, but he would have had to have been on the bus for like an hour. And he could walk it faster than that. And so the thought of even inching it 10 minutes up is a little concerning to me. Just looking at some of the other changes, I appreciate the consolidation into 3 tiers. I think that's a great way to go, but it does feel like we're going to be putting some, pretty substantial change on some of our schools. The 2 middle schools that are in Tier 3. I know you addressed Mountain Trail, but that's 50 minutes earlier for a start time. And then we potentially have that happening with, a small handful, but some of our elementaries. And we don't even know which ones those are yet. So that's a little concerning to me because as everybody has said, we need to plan, families need to plan for next year as well, and what that may potentially impact. So as much as I appreciate all of this, and I agree we need to do it, I am concerned about timing in terms of, being able to adequately communicate the way we need to our families. So just
Yeah.
thoughts for the moment.
Thank you, Mrs. Greenberg. Just a couple of things I would say. This is the timing we did use for school closures, so we thought that it would be a similar appropriate timing for, equally potentially as large of a measure as it was for school closures. There was some while there was conversation with the committee around the additional or earlier start time of high schools of 10 minutes, there was also a lot of conversation around already with the Tier 3 schools going until 3:40 and that being rather late in the day, and there's study and research about those. And so, like I talked about at some point in the presentation, there's not a perfect solution here, and the committee did try to balance all of those factors. They really and truly did consider all of these pieces and believe that this is the best solution moving forward. They understand that it does have some negative impact, and making changes is never usually well received. I don't know if the committee's preference is to delay the elementaries and push them back to 3:50. I don't know what other lever to hit for you guys there, so I'm not sure.
Dr. Lim?
Yeah, so I want to follow that up, just thinking more strategically to if we move forward like with this. So enrollment for things like mascot and that are going to come before this decision is made. So I kind of have two questions around there. Some of these schools maybe are schools that fill up instantly and have insanely long wait lists. So how are we going to accommodate those families that suddenly need mascot because they may have a very earlier start time and their schools are at capacity either because we don't have the staff, or the other reason I learned we're at capacity, those schools can't take any more students because of the DHS limits at that school. So they literally couldn't take any more students. So first would be kind of what are we going to do to help support those additional families that may need this? And how are we going to message and support what is probably going to be a really hard year for those families? Because hopefully by the following year, it's kind of worked itself out. But that first year is going to be very challenging. What steps are we taking to make sure those few elementary schools that are going to change do have the supports and the parents are getting exactly what they need without having to go to outside programs to bridge?
Yep, so we, in fact, Natalie Wilcox was on the committee, so she was aware of potential changes all along. And so as I was trying to mention this at the end of the presentation is what I was trying to refer to in terms of additional offerings for before and after school programs, whether that be through community ed or before the bell and after the bell. All of those considerations will be made for those schools.
So in making decisions like this, I don't feel super comfortable making the decision just being told, well, we're going to do it. It would be nice to see the plan of how we're going to do it, which does mean divulging what schools and what plans we have. And I get that's getting ahead of the horse to approve this, but it really makes it a hard time to make a decision where like, we'll solve it. Well, we say we're going to solve a lot of things and they don't always get solved in the grand scheme of things. So it would be nice to see those solutions on paper and that these are the plans we have for these particular schools. And we understand that this school's constraints are this, and this is what our initial plan is for this. And I know we may have to pivot, but it would be good to have an understanding because that gives our principals the space to communicate right away versus being a little hand wavy, which I've already been in one of those meetings with the hand wavy. The change might be coming, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know when it's coming, and we don't know what it's going to look like. So it actually is significantly impacting decisions that are being made at those schools. And then my other question is, again, about mascot. There may be families that choose to use mascot because they're bell time, but now no longer need the program. So are we going to allow those parents to get back that $90 refundable fee? And are we going to make sure we communicate well to those sites so that parents know that if they have selected to these programs, they may have 3 or 4 kids that they're using those programs for. That is a large sum of money they would get back by choosing not to use the program because the time now magically works for pickup and drop off for them in a way that didn't
work before.
Yep, that's certainly a possibility, and we will be refunding any of those fees at that time.
Are there any other comments here?
I just,
If you
so,
want it.
I appreciated the questions from Dr. Lamb, you know, sort of further diving into, you know, are we looking at do all of our sort of boundaries and feeders make a lot of sense? Without calling out any particular schools, I can tell you that in my neighborhood, students who live on my same block can walk to one school, but they get picked up in a bus to go somewhere else. So I feel like I would enjoy and appreciate as a follow-up just some, whether it's even bringing out some of the information that was come to, right, recommendations from when you all looked at boundaries the last time and what went into that, because I truly do believe that everything was looked at, but literally in my own community, like I watching kids get picked up in a bus that could walk to the school. So I just feel like this is where I would appreciate really just kind of feeling like all of the data has been looked at, right? We're not missing some opportunities. And maybe at the end of the day, maybe there are other reasons, right, why you would pass on rebounding that have nothing to do with distance, right? I appreciate that. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to keep a certain community boundaried for a certain school. But without being privy to any of that information, again, it just really kind of feels like we want to make sure that we're not missing anything, we're doing our due diligence, and that there isn't anything that could potentially be on the table, right, to sort of try to offset some of this and provide maybe possibly even a sliver of another solution that doesn't involve, right, again, like whether it's putting it on the high school or maybe moving fewer elementary schools to that later time, just minimizing disruption wherever we can. So I guess my ask would be, as part of a follow-up, if there is that data that you've already done that great work, if you could share that, I think that would be helpful, or in advance in whatever way you think appropriate.
I thought you asked a question. It's a comment. Yeah, for the school choice seems to be a big problem with this because, like you said, the kids could walk to school, but the parents choose to take up another school. No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, then what are you saying then?
I'm saying that in my neighborhood, there are kids on my street who get picked up to get in a bus to get transported to school when the geographic that is their bounded school, when geographically there is a closer school that they could walk to, that their siblings go to the middle school right next to it, for example.
So sometimes
I
we have
understand.
special education students who are able to be picked up, so.
They're my neighbors, so I wouldn't bring this up if it's been mulling around in my head, and I just would like to understand that if we're saying we've looked at all of those things and there's nowhere to pick any, right, routes up or consolidate, whatever, I just would like to be brought into that, to have that same information.
Thanks for finding that for me. Yeah, any other comments? I just like the fact that we're talking about increasing instructional time. This whole thing will make our students have more time in the classroom and save us some money. There's some bugs that have to be worked out, and I know that the committee is doing that and working at it. I really do agree about some of this high school startup times. I remember trying to get my daughter up in the mornings to go to high school back over there in Scottsdale. Forget about it. So yeah, I get that. And the studies have been showing that for a long time about high schools and their sleep cycles. But I appreciate the work, and I look forward to what's going to happen next with this. Any other comments? All right, thank you for your work and all the time you put into this. I really appreciate it. I know we all really appreciate that. Our next board meeting, make sure I'm on the right page. Yes, our next before we adjourn, I would like to remind everyone that our next regular governing board meeting will be held on Thursday, February 12th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We're adjourned.